What is going on, everybody? Happy Monday to you. Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. I am Clint. I am your host. I am very happy and very excited, and I am rocking the Die Hard stimulus check t-shirt for a damn good reason. I have earned this bad boy today. We're coming off an absolutely monster night at UFC Vegas 31, and as you can tell, I'm in a wonderful mood. I couldn't be happier to be here talking MMA and talking fights with you all wonderful, lovely people, and it's just going to be a great day. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to have a good time. I've got an awesome guest for you all, and riding high the way we are, I mean, coming off of a awful pay-per-view event, making it all back, and then some. Like, we're in a good place right now. We're feeling good. We're feeling ourselves. How's everybody doing? Dog MMA saying Clint 10 out of 10. Clintus Duplicis in the house. Hashtag smash. I love it. We've got King of the PV Dizzle, Mystic Sosa in the house. Yeah, I'm bummed that the Dawkins fight is off as well. That's a little bit upsetting. Alan Epstein, grateful dude, my guy in the house. The Gaming Wolf 87, Herman Newsom Freeman, Michael Lunday. Thank you very much, my friend. Always appreciate you. One of the OGs of the show right there. We've got Jason One Luffy. We've got DFS by the numbers. Jacksonville Zoe, Bufo on the beat. Uncle Wheezy, Nigel Lee, Ryan Grant, Shane 766 rocking that beautiful Vikings logo. Let's go, baby. It's almost season. It's almost time. I'm just Drew. What's up, buddy, in the house? How you doing? Ricky Martinez, Dad Goldstein, Lucas Gottas, Andy Price, all the OGs, everybody in here hanging out. Happy to be with y'all. Now, I've already had enough fun. It's time to welcome in my guest. You may know him as the one, the only MMA lock of the night. Man, Preet, buddy, what's up? How you doing?
Nothing much. I think they call me Locrates on these streets, so I'm going to be going with Locrates today. No toga today, but we have a ton to celebrate. I know you had a great event. I had a great event on my side as well, too. So it's always good to try to parlay that momentum into another event that we got coming up this weekend. Very fun event. And when you initially reached out to me about this event, I found it funny that the other one we were scheduled to do together was supposed to have this as the main event. So it's funny how it works out, and I'm really looking forward to actually breaking down this card with you, brother.
It all comes around full circle, man. Absolutely. And we don't need the Togo for you to go by Locrates. The way we're predicting these fights, that name sticks, toga or not, buddy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I find it interesting. Last time we were like opposite of each other on a lot of the picks, and now today we're going with the blue versus red. So I'm not sure if we're going to be on the opposite sides a lot this week, but based on some of the picks I've seen you drop already, I think we're going to be on the same side of a lot of these things. So I can't wait to break down and see which other matchups we might be clashing heads on.
Hey, we were on the same page a lot last week, and we both crushed it. So
absolutely,
I'm kind of hoping we're both still vibing the same way, feeling everything the same direction. Because if we are, I think it spells, hopefully good things for the weekend to come as well. Man, I got to tell you, though, for those of you who have not gotten into it, haven't entered, my guy Locke runs one of the coolest betting competitions on the net today, the Lock of the Night contest or the Dog of the Night contest. They're a ton of fun, and I am in the Lock of the Night contest, and I'm pretty disappointed, man, because I got in early on my boy Billy Q, and I got plus 180, and I'm sitting back thinking, boy, I'm going to be feeling good after this week in the Lock of the Night contest. People out there hitting like 22 to 1s and shit. I've been put to shame even hitting, an underdog for my Lock of the Night play. I was a little frustrated by that.
The funny thing is that I didn't expect you not to take the Billy Q round 3, which a couple people took, which actually ended up hitting at 22 to 1. So we had a couple guys skyrocket into first place, but it's only the second or third week of the event. It goes for the majority of the year or the rest of the year, I should be saying. So there's plenty of time to be made up. I'd be surprised the guy that's in number 1 with 105 units is going to still have 105 units come the next couple weeks. So you still got a ton of time to make up some ground, brother.
I definitely got some time. My strategy is always to start slow and consistent. You know what I mean? And then if I get behind, I start taking swings later in the competition. But that round 3 prop, I bet it. I just wasn't going to use it for my lock of the night in the contest.
Yeah.
So
no, some guys were definitely lucky with that one for sure. But I see it all the time. There's guys that take your approach, which is small, just take one shot, maybe an underdog or a slight favorite at the beginning of the contest. And then if they start falling behind on picks, then they start swinging for the fences. But we still have some guys swinging for the fences in the first 2 weeks of the competition. They're going to quickly start falling behind, and then they're going to wish that they took the disciplined approach. But again, we still got a long 6 months to go for this competition, so I can't wait to see how it shakes out.
I can't wait, man. I got my ass kicked last time, so I'm hungry. I want to do better this time. I can't wait. All right, man. Let's get into it, shall we? Like, quick and dirty recap of last week's event. I'm not going to go over the entire card because if you want a recap of the card, just watch last week's podcast. I caught the entire freaking thing. No, seriously. So it went pretty fantastic. I laid the hammer down. Amanda Lemos, Rodolfo Vieira. I was a little nervous that Rodolfo decided he wanted to strike, but that he showed some serious improvements, man. That jab was doing some serious work, doing some serious damage. First opportunity he got when he felt like the fight was on the line in the third round, he quit messing around. He got the damn thing done. So I feel pretty good about that. Got in on Billy Q at plus 180, which I argued with everybody all week. That line was just stupid. Like, it should have been a pick'em. Maybe even, in my opinion, Billy Q slightly favored based on the stylistic matchup. But if you want to make him a plus 120 dog or something, I get it. That's fine. But plus 180 was stupid. Felt good that came through. Got the round 3 sprinkle. And then almost laid the hammer on Gamrot. A little frustrated that I didn't end up pulling the trigger there, but I was trying to keep things a little more close to the vest considering how bad of a week I had the week before. Should have just bet Malcolm Gordon straight, man. I took a half-unit shot at the submission prop because I knew he was going to sell out for the grappling. He was too tired to lock anything in after, grappling with a Figueiredo brother, which is understandable. So I feel, big brain smart for calling the plus 250 upset, but also feel a little stupid, a little foolish for not having an extra 2.5 units in my pocket from just sticking with my read and betting the guy straight because that line was way too wide. How'd you end up doing betting-wise for last week?
Yeah, I did have a little bit of action on the Bellator card. There's only like one underdog that actually won last weekend for Bellator, and I took my underdog shot on the over 1.5 in the Mitrione and Fortune fight. Oof. I believe there's a head cut that caused that takedown, and then obviously the stoppage shortly thereafter.
I was on Mitrione, man.
Yeah, I don't mind the plus 300 shot. I believe it was plus 300 that you took on Mitrione there. I don't mind that shot at all. The lock of the night play that night. Obviously, you got to parlay some shit for Bellator to get some decent value. I did have a parlay of Johnny Eblin and Juliana Velasquez. Velasquez made me sweat a little bit more, not implementing the grappling as much as I thought she would. Luckily, the judges gave us the roll of the dice there. I wouldn't have been mad if Denise Kehols actually ended up getting that decision. Very close fight. And then for the UFC, obviously, I did end up having Sergey Morozov as the underdog there, plus 125. I thought that line was backwards. I truly thought that Morozov deserved to be the favorite there. I'm glad that one came through and looked as good as he did. And then the lock of the night play was another little bit of a sweat. I sweat for the Juliana Velasquez decision, and then they made me sweat a little bit for the under 1.5 in the Nascimento and Baudot fight. Going into the second round, I'm like, hey, come on, guys, let's get this shit together. Luckily, Nascimento gets his strikes together. And I think he either broke the nose or really damaged Baudot very, very bad, which made Baudot kind of just crumple over and fall to the ground. So good win for us there. We cashed the under 1.5 with about a minute to spare there. But I don't want to be sweating this weekend. So I'm hoping that the plays that I'm liking this weekend, keep me nice and dry. Let's just put it that way. I just want to cash this ticket and just fucking move on. That's about it.
Hey, man, Nascimento bettors. I said last week, I was like, look, he should win, but please don't parlay him. And that first round, he got his ass handed to him by Baudot. Dude showed some serious improvements. I think if Baudot gets it together, drops back down to 205, I compared him to Kevin Holland. Like, if he makes just a couple of adjustments, he actually could be something. But I don't know, man. We'll end up seeing what happens there. But great call. Glad you got that cash regardless.
One thing I do want to touch on in terms of your Malcolm Gordon call, great call in terms of predicting that. It kind of reminded me of like Darrick Minner. I mean, not a lot of people expected him to win by decision against Charles Rosa last time that he was out. and then we see Malcolm Gordon actually win by decision. I know a lot of people that had the under 2.5. I had it in a couple of degenerate parlays of my own, and that crashed. But yeah, good win for my fellow Canadian Malcolm Gordon. But I'm not sure what his longevity inside the cage is, especially with what we kind of know about Baby Figgy now, right? So good that he gets his win. Not often that we see Canadians get wins inside the octagon, but I'll take it for the Canadian team. But I can't wait to see what he brings to the table next time.
Yeah, man. Team Canada absolutely needed a win, so I'm glad for you guys. I like to say that I'm a I want to apply for my dual citizenship. Like, I want to be an honorary Canadian. I know so many of you and are, internet friends with so many of you.
I'll vouch for you. Don't worry. I'll vouch for
you. Thank you.
If that counts for anything.
I would not hang your hat on Malcolm Gordon going forward. I don't think he's long for this world, and we just saw just how bad the other Figueiredo is, unfortunately. Yeah. We're about to get this show started, folks. Question from Death TXL in the chat. We are going to break down every single fight on the card coming up on Saturday, UFC Vegas 32. We're going to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of each fighters, and then we'll diagnose it from the betting line. We'll take a look at, who's the favorite, who's the underdog, and who we think would be the best pick, the best spot for you to put your money if you were going to make a bet. We'll also caution you when we think a fight is not bet-worthy, and maybe you should probably just hang it up and pass. So we're probably going to be here about an hour and a half or so. Locke and I are both a little bit long-winded and diehard MMA fans, if you will. So, buckle in. If you like some fights, you're in the right place. We've got 166 live viewers. We are on Pub Sports Radio Live. Thank you all very much for being here with us tonight. Smash that like button for me. Give my guy MMA Lock of the Night a follow on Twitter if you haven't already. And the first fight we're going to talk about, man, just this entire card real quick, Lock. It's going to be an orgy of violence this weekend.
Oh, yes.
I love this card. Like last week, it wasn't the best card, but everything went so picture perfect with the picks. I really enjoyed myself. This week is just nonstop action. I love every single matchup on the slate. And even kicking us off here, women's flyweight, we've got Diana Belbita taking on Hannah Goldy. Belbita is 13-6 with one of the most inflated records you'll see in the history of MMA. And then you've got Hannah Goldy, who is very low on experience at just 5-1. And what we're looking at here is me not knowing how to hit the damn tabs on StreamYard because they're usually preset for me and they're not working for me today. Diana Belbita is 0-2 in the UFC, man. She's coming off of giving Liana Jojua the one path to victory that she ever had in that fight. Belbita was a massive favorite and gets her arm snapped off in the first round because she just absolutely gift-wrapped the fight to Liana Jojua. But before that fight, I mean, man, she was like, what, a minus 265 favorite? She was a massive favorite in that spot. And there was huge hype around Diana Belbita coming off of a war with Molly McCann, which was an absolute barn burner of a battle. She walks forward, she throws hands, she's got an active jab, high volume, she's got good killer instinct, flurries against the cage when her opponent's backed up. She's got really good balance. She was able to defend some of the trips and throws that Molly McCann tried, especially early in the fight. I know Molly got some, success going a little bit later on in the fight, but she's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage in this fight and a pretty significant size advantage too. Hannah Goldy, she's an absolute tank of a woman, man. She is thick, she is strong, but I'll be completely honest, I think of her kind of as a stubby Caitlin Chukagian. I don't really like the game plan that she brings to the table. She has yet to shoot a takedown that I have ever seen, even though you would think she'd have like the power and strength advantage in this type of a situation. She tries lots of kicks, plays the outside. She's always on her bike, keeping the range and almost running. She has a rangefinder jab, but she's got those short arms. She almost never lands with it. She just kind of sticks it out there. She's relatively harmless on the feet. You know what I mean? She doesn't have big power. She's not a submission threat. She does have good elbows and clinch knees when she's in tight, but that's really the best thing that I see from her. Man, I felt like the wrong fighter was favored here. For some reason, they opened up this line plus 160, Diana Belbita. And in my opinion, worst case scenario, this should be a pick'em. Best case scenario, more accurate, no recency bias from having an L to Liana Jojua on your record. I think Diana Belbita should be a solid favorite here in this spot. So I already bet the dog, man. I've got 2 units on Diana Belbita. I expect that in the small cage, I think she's going to have the grappling advantage. I think the height and the reach is going to cause Hannah Goldy to struggle to score. So even if she is, got better footwork, maybe if she is a cleaner striker, she's still going to have trouble closing that distance. She's still going to have trouble even connecting with Diana Belbita, and she's going to be there to be hit even if she does. I have no reason to believe she's going to shoot for takedowns. I feel like this is a time where the recency bias has swung us way too far to one side, and I love my dog spot here, man. Talk to me about this fight. How do you feel about the first fight of the night?
A couple things right off the bat. I like that you're saying recency bias because I feel like there's a lot of lines on this card is suffering from that. So we're definitely going to be hammering that recency bias narrative a lot more too. 2, I love that you made the comparison of Katlyn Chookagian, but just shorter, stumpier, and more jacked. And I absolutely see that. You are absolutely correct about that. However, I just don't think she's as effective as Katlyn Chookagian is in terms of implementing that type of game plan. The way that I always kind of looked at Hannah Goldy is kind of like the women's version, physically speaking, of John Lineker, where she just looks jacked as shit and she'll throw wild winging hooks. And a lot of her stuff, even when she's moving a lot of it is just kicks that she's just throwing up the middle. Maybe not even, with much intention on them, more so just to kind of maintain the distance and keep her opponent on the outside. I think the best fight to kind of look to see how this fight could potentially go down is the Miranda Granger fight. There's plenty of exchanges where, you see Goldy on the outside and just trying to run around and trying to find the openings to close the distance and get her striking going, but then she's met by the better hands of Miranda Granger in those spots, and Granger's the one landing the more damage, which is why I believe she ended up winning that fight. I could see the exact same thing happening here. Like, you broke this fight down as best as you possibly could, because I do believe the hands of Belbita are going to be the difference maker in this fight. I think she's going to find that the target more often than not. Is she going to find the finish? I don't think so. I think that Goldy is still quite durable. I do think that she takes a good shit kicking, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen this weekend. And shout out to you for getting some solid closing value there. Or closing line value plus 150. I believe that you got the line on her. Now she's close to a pick'em, which is where the fight should obviously be. That's a great indicament of terms of why you should be doing your tape a little bit earlier to take advantage of some of these egregious lines, like the Billy Q line for last week, like this Diana Belbita line from this week. But I still do believe, even at that pick'em line, I side with the Belbita side of things, unless Goldy completely comes into this fight with a grapple-heavy game plan where she just wants to use her strength and drag the fight to the ground and continuously just grapple fuck her. Then I would lean Goldy a little bit more as potentially being the favorite. But if you run the tape, that's not her style. Her style is output, move. But a lot of that output is just kind of whiffing at air. Let's be honest. I think the more damage is going to be coming from the Belbita side of things for sure. So yeah, I like Belbita here. I was looking at her as my potential dog of the night play. But I want to see if that line does anything else. I think I missed the most value that I'm going to be getting on it, but I still would be picking her to win this fight, even if she was like a minus 120, minus 125 favorite. I still think that she has a little bit of value there, given the fact that she should be the one dishing out the damage in this fight. So yeah, I like Belbita. I like Belbita by decision. Possible finish. Again, I just feel like Hannah Goldy is super durable in this spot, so she should be able to take the shots. And I believe they both are fighting in a new weight class in this fight as well, so that should be a difference maker as well. But I don't think it's going to be a huge difference maker.
Yeah, it's interesting that they are both dropping, which to me, that absolutely negates any advantage that either of them would get from the changing of weight classes. So I'm not expecting to see, I'm not factoring in anything as far as the weight class change for either of them, because they are both the ones doing it. So I'm with you there, man. I feel like this line might potentially even flip here over the course of the week. So I'm pretty happy with sniping that spot early. And hey, that's why we do the show for you guys on Monday. That's why the podcast is here Monday every week, coming to you early. The only people who are jerks and get to these fights before I do are DFS and Uncle Weezy. They one-upped me. They started doing a show on Sundays so they could get to the early value. No, I'm just messing. I love those guys.
Clint. You know we got to start doing a show as soon as the fights end on Saturday. Let's start talking about the next one. Midnight Saturday. Let's fucking go.
No recap of the fight that just happened. Next week's card.
Let's go.
We gotta look and see what time they go live on Sunday night. We'll start at like 10 a.m. on Sunday morning or something.
Down. Let's go.
Oh my god, that'd be so funny. All right. Yeah, Uncle Weezy was talking about, man, this fight, they put up the 1-800-GAMBLER like hotline if you feel like playing this one. And here I am like, I got 2 units on it already.
Honestly, I'm surprised we haven't seen more chatter about it on Twitter, because like we know we always have that one fight, that shit show of a fight that like everybody just talks about on Twitter. I believe a couple weeks ago it was Yazong Hu against Alan Amadovsky, which didn't even end up happening, but it was just the talk of the town on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I thought that this would be the fight, but I don't see it as much yet. It's still only Monday. We'll see how the rest of the week goes.
And like last week, man, we lost Miles Johns versus Dos Santos. That was the one. Like that was the one that everybody couldn't quite agree on how that fight was going to play out, and that's the one we lose.
Yeah, for sure. It was that, and Gamrot and Stevens, I felt, was being heavily talked about. At least in the streams that I was doing, the chat was lit about Gamrot and Stevens for sure.
Man, anyway, it's going to be good. I'm glad we see eye to eye on this first one for sure. That's always a great way to start the show off. Got to admit, though, the chat is absolutely on fire with the Hannah Goldy OnlyFans comments. I know. You can't get that by these days anymore, man. I'm all for like people making money, so I'm glad for Hannah Goldy. Hey, for those of you that don't know, it allowed her to go full time. She was working 2 or 3 jobs to support her MMA career, starts an OnlyFans, and now she can train full time. So there's a chance we see like a massively improved Hannah Goldy this weekend, and more power to her.
Last thing I want to say about this matchup, specifically Hannah Goldy, for the long-time MMA fans or somewhat long-time MMA fans, if you guys remember Alex Nicholson, training partner of Mike Perry, trains at the same gym as Hannah Goldy, he proposed to her at the weigh-ins of one of his fights for the UFC. If you guys remember a while back, he actually proposed to her. They have a kid together. They got quickly divorced after that, and now she's with another fighter from the same gym. But yeah, if anybody remembers Alex Nicholson proposing to somebody at the weigh-ins one time, it was actually to Hannah Goldy before she even made her UFC debut.
That's funny. I did not know that. And that's crazy.
I don't know how I remember that, but that's a pretty slick move. I don't remember how. Again, I don't know why these types of things stick in my mind, but it's in there, Clint. It's in this memory bank.
Gotta love the useless information that stays up in there. And thank you, Ryan Grant, for bonking the chat for being too horny already to start this card off. The simp bets are on fire. All right, let's go. Let's go. Speaking of simp bets, no, I'm just kidding. We've got Sijara Eubanks taking on UFC newcomer Elise Reed. I think I'm saying that right. Elise Reed. And man, what an interesting fight. We're going to talk about this more than once this evening about a weight class change. Sijara Eubanks is dropping to flyweight. Like, first off, just the biggest red flag I have seen in a long time. We've talked about Sijara Eubanks struggling with weight many times before. And her dropping a weight class at the ripe old age of 36, I don't have any faith that she's going to make this weight class. So I expect Sijara to quit halfway through, come in a couple of pounds heavy, and then probably just ragdoll this poor girl as she comes in overweight. But, Locke, I just got to start off with this, man. Is Sijara Eubanks the best 500 fighter we've ever seen?
Probably. Like, I'm trying to think of other people that have, like, somewhat like abysmal records, but like, yeah, I think you make a good case for that, because she is fighting women that are quite talented in that division, which is why she has such an up and down record. But yeah, I can't believe I'm saying it, but you're right, dude.
It's crazy. It's absolutely wild. She's 7-6, man. That's just a horrific record for somebody with the skill set and the things we've seen her do in the cage. She does not reflect that 7-6 record. Now, Elise Reed coming in 4-0, undefeated. I did some tape on her. She was the CFFC strawweight champion. She is aggro, man. This girl is gas pedal all the time. She has a long 1-2, a big right hand. She's got finishing, vicious finishing ability, nasty ground and pound. And honestly, she's really well-rounded. She flows extremely well from striking to grappling. She's got lots of nice reversals and sweeps and things of that nature. I really like what I see from Elise, but talk about a change, a level of competition jump. She's coming into essentially the deep end in the UFC. Now, I know this is Sijara Eubanks' first fight at this weight class, but she's a fringe contender and has been the whole time she's been in the UFC. She just keeps dropping the ball at the wrong time. We know she's a strong, powerful fighter, high-level wrestler, black belt in BJJ, heavy top game. My biggest issue with Sijara Eubanks, and something that I've always held against her, is that she gasses out. She gasses out late in the fight. She gives up opportunities because she just can't keep it up for 15 minutes. With someone like Elise Reed that has that foot on the gas pedal consistently, my biggest concern is her letting this one slip away. Sijara Eubanks is the pick, man. Like, I can't argue against the experience level, what we've seen her do, the grappling, the wrestling. She should be able to take this chick down and control her. She should be able to dominate with that top position. But if she slips ever so slightly at the end of round 2, if she doesn't quite have the gas in round 3 because she's cutting down to a new weight class, or I mean, not new, but it's been a while since she's made this cut, I have concerns that she's going to get it done, man. I'm not going to parlay Sijara Eubanks. That's for damn sure. How do you see this fight playing out?
The weight thing is definitely a huge factor in this fight, right? I find it interesting that she was able to make weight as consistently as she did when she was on The Ultimate Fighter, but now when she's actually getting full training camps and all that stuff, she's not able to make it. So first and foremost, if you're even looking to play Sijara Eubanks, I think you got to wait to the weigh-ins, see what she looks like there. Whether, if she misses the weight by 3-4 pounds, you could still feel confident in her. If she misses the weight by half a pound, 2 pounds, whatever, then maybe it's a little bit more of a concern because she's probably, just really killing herself to make the weight there. But I feel like her grappling advantage here is just going to be the main reason she wins this fight. Elise Reed, I believe 2 fights ago, I believe the chick's name was Jillian DeCourcy, who she was giving up takedowns to. It did seem like there was a certain times where she was really struggling with the power of DeCourcy in that fight. And I feel like Eubanks, being the bigger fighter here, is definitely going to play in her advantage. I think she's going to be the stronger fighter. Not to mention her black belt in jiu-jitsu should give her an advantage on the ground as well. I truly think that also that even though Reed should have the striking advantage of this fight, I do believe she has a Taekwondo and karate background, and you definitely see it when she's fighting. She should have the advantage there, but don't. But the issue is her takedown defense seems a little bit skeptical, and I do think that Sijara Eubanks will be able to kind of capitalize on that by taking this fight to the ground. And I think she could even find a submission. If one thing that you notice from Elise Reed fights is she finds herself in submissions more often than not, right? I can't count on one hand, how many times I saw her in an armbar from her opponents. And even though she gets out, right, this is easily the toughest black belt in jiu-jitsu that she's had to go up against in her very short career, right? She's only 4-0, and she's already a champion over there at CFFC. I will say her win over Jazz DeVicious, Canadian girl, very highly touted. I was very impressed with that fight. She was able to go out there and beat her for the title, obviously. But here against Eubanks, I just think she's going to struggle with the strength, the takedowns, and the jiu-jitsu. And I don't even think there's a possibility this doesn't even reach the 3rd round. I think that's how much better Eubanks is on the ground than Reed. So I do think that there's a possibility that we'll see Eubanks actually snatch up a choke or a submission of some sort in the 1st or 2nd round of this fight. My pause, though, is the weight cut. So I'm going to wait until then to see if I actually want to chuck her into a couple like lottery parlays or something like that. Shout out to anybody that got in on the early line for Eubanks. I saw her around -220, -230. I thought that was a solid spot. Now she's eclipsing the -300 mark. A lot of people are starting to see why she's the favorite and why she deservedly so is the favorite. But yeah, I do like Eubanks in this spot. I think she nails the takedowns, gets full mount without much issue, and then eventually starts raining down shots, snatching up a submission of some sort. So yeah, I like Eubanks, but just wait for the weigh-ins. I know your undefeated weigh-in show is probably, a lot of people are going to have an eye on that just to see what Eubanks looks like, and for good reason. This is one of those fighters that you need to see it, especially with her coming back down to 125.
Yeah, man, this is one, every week there's 1 or 2 fights that I just circle and I'm like waiting till Friday. Like this is absolutely the one because we got to see what Sarge looks like on the scales. And I just have so many questions. I try not to bet debuting fighters in the first place, but when you get big underdog odds on debuting fighters, that's when I'm a little bit more interested. It's when they're chalk that it's the scary situation for the debut. Now, I do want to shout out Bon Quickly 72 here in the chat. I've heard this. I've seen other people say this. She got her white belt a couple years ago. But in a couple years, how much progress has she made? Like, we just simply do not know. You've got, now obviously BJ Penn is like a phenom, but he got a black belt in 3 years of jiu-jitsu. Yeah. So you can't say she got her white belt a couple years ago and just immediately discard the fact that she doesn't know what she's doing on the ground, because she could be a brown belt by now. She could be a high-level purple belt by now. Like, don't just take it easy a little bit with the white belt thing.
Last thing I'll say, under 2.5 is something that I'll probably target for this fight, just to keep an eye on. I see the fight doesn't go to decision, is roughly around plus 175. We should get some decent plus money on the under here, and I think it's a good spot to take a shot to potentially see Eubanks get her first finish inside the UFC.
I'm glad you mentioned that, man, because I think that this is absolutely a spot where somebody's getting finished. You know what I mean? Either this girl isn't quite on Sarge's level, the weight cut goes well, everything's on point, and she snaps her arm off in the first round. Or if she does have the gas problems, if she does slow down, this chick is vicious. If she gets on top of Sarge in round 2 because Sarge is tired, I know Sarge hasn't been finished before in the UFC, but she's got the kind of elbow hellish ground and pound that the ref is going to pull her off. So I think the under 2.5 at a plus line, this is probably a really sweet spot for it, honestly. That's a good call.
Yeah, for sure. I like seeing some plus money unders, and if I see an advantage or an edge, I'm definitely going to take a shot on it.
I love it. Man, if I was going to start a band, we'd be calling it Violence Bets.
Let's go.
All right, next fight up, man. We have got Julio Arce taking on Andre Ewell. Now, Arce 16-4, Ewell 17-7. And I've got to go ahead and just kind of issue like a semi-public apology here, because I've been one of the biggest Andre Ewell haters in the world when it comes to sports betting. I have ragged on this guy. I've talked about how I just don't like what he does. I don't see the upside. He always seems to fall flat. I've faded him a bunch of times. And the biggest thing that really sucks about that is he's got such a great relationship with Pub. He came on the live stream with everybody on Saturday watching the fight cards. Oh, wow. And, you know, my boy Nick and Locker Room, and then they're all able to, like, hang out and talk with Andre. So it is nothing personal. I like Andre. But what I want to say is I do apologize because my tune is changing. The last couple fights, Andre Ewell has really been starting to put it together. And even though he's not always getting the nod, the pieces of the puzzle are there. And I'm starting to change my opinion on him. Man, in this spot, though, I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do. It feels like Andre Ewell is a very popular dog this week, and I kind of get it. But we haven't seen a lot from Julio Arce lately. He hasn't been around for a whole lot, but in my opinion, he's probably fought the slighter, higher level of competition. And if you look at his stats, man, he averages 4.25 significant strikes a minute, absorbing only 2.87. So, like, 1.8 significant strike differential there. Whereas Andre Ewell, the whole thing is his reach. He's massive for this weight class. The height, the reach, the legs, like, that's his biggest selling factor, is that he can hit his opponents and stay out of range. But he still is a strike-for-strike fighter. He averages 4.42 significant strikes per minute, but absorbs 4.25. So I think the problem is the gas tank, man. Andre Ewell cuts a lot of weight. He's a big dude. He's tall. He's long. But he slows down so badly. Round 1, Andre Ewell does not look the same as round 3, Andre Ewell. I feel like he gets ahead on the judges' scorecards, and then they get it back the deeper the fight goes. And that's why the stats line up the way they do for him. I like his boxing. I like the reach advantage. I love how athletic and fast he is early. But again, just like Sijara Eubanks, I can't trust a guy that slows down and gives away a fight at the end of round 2 and at the start of round 3. And we've seen him just collapse on himself at that stage. Someone like Julio Arce, he's a sick striker, man. He's got a long, hard jab, a sneaky left high kick that he can get up to your head with a quickness. He's got a long, straight left hand. He throws flying knees to close the distance. He mixes it up in the clinch, and he's so elusive. He's such a good defensive striker. I think he's the exact type of person that will be able to drag Andre Ewell late and then hurt him as this fight goes deep. To me, this is a favorite or pass scenario, but like I said, I'm starting to kind of come over to the side of Andre Ewell, so I'm not wanting to stand in front of him right when I feel like he's starting to put it all together. I think this is a favorite or pass situation for me, and most likely a pass. Locke, how do you feel on this fight?
Clint, 3 fights in, and we agree on all 3 fights.
Woo!
What the hell, Clint? What the hell? No, I'm with you right here. Ewell does have, I feel like he gets a little bit too much flack from the betting community or MMA Twitter, whatever the hell it might be. But I think he has some good skills, man. His hand speed is ridiculously good. He's very fast. Obviously, his jab is good. He uses his length pretty well. But there are times where he does start to slow down later in fights, like you're talking about. Erwin Rivera was able to have a good amount of success late in their fight because Ewell was just getting tired from, moving and playing the matador for as long as he was. But that's kind of his game. He needs to go out there and just outstrike these guys and use his hand speed and keep these guys at distance. However, with Arce, I wish we see a little bit more activity from Arce in terms of actually being inside the cage. Last time he fought was the same night that we had the BMF title on the line. So it's been close to 2 years now since we've actually seen him inside the cage. But he brings such good skills and techniques to the cage. Tiger Showman trained, obviously, Lyman Good and Shane Burgess and all those guys train with those guys on a daily basis. Great striking, like you said. But I think the difference here, and I think the main reason I'm leaning with Arce here is I love his kicks. I love his kicks. And I think he might even take a page out of Chris Gutierrez's book here and just beat up that front wheel of Andre Ewell, slow him down, and that let his hands go, or even get some takedowns behind it too, because I think he has a very underrated jiu-jitsu game and grappling game too, where I think Andre Ewell truly struggles. So yeah, I really like I really do like Arce in this spot. I just wish he was a little bit more active. That's my only little concern there. But I don't think that it's going to be a huge concern considering the level that I believe Arce is truly at. So Ewell could win this fight if he stays on his bicycle and just jabs him to death from the outside. But I find it hard to believe that Arce doesn't look at that Chris Gutierrez fight, or his coaches don't look at that Chris Gutierrez fight and be like, hey, just kick. Let's kick this guy, beat up that front leg, and you're going to get your hands going right after that. So, I like Arce here. I think he wins. I think he probably wins either a decision or he could possibly finish Andre Ewell late. I like Arce in this spot, brother.
I like it, man. And I got to be honest with you, Locke. So one thing that I do may be better than a lot of the MMA betting community. I'm a complete degenerate, but man, the one thing I can kind of hang my hat on is those round 3 props. Julio Arce might be my round 3 for this weekend. That's going to be the spot that I'm kind of targeting because you absolutely nailed it with the Gutierrez fight. That's the most recent fight where we've really seen Ewell struggle. That was a fight that he was not ready for that kind of an offense. And if Arce, with the kind of kicks we've seen him throw, has any type of implementation of that plan, I think he can break him down. And then, like you mentioned, the jiu-jitsu advantage. When Ewell slows down in round 3, he's easier to take down. He's easier to close the range on. He's easier to get to. I think that the round 3 stoppage is going to be on the table absolutely for Julio Arce. So if the rest of the community keeps on betting Andre Ewell, I might stand in front of the market and just take Julio Arce straight if we get a better line on him later in the week. But that round 3 is absolutely going to make my card.
Clint, the props are dropping as this stream is going on. So I'll keep an eye on it and see if we can get an actual number on that round 3, maybe a little bit later in this episode. But yeah, I'll definitely be targeting that as well. Yeah,
man. Let me know what that number is if they pop up and you see it. Real quick, before we move on to the next fight here, I want to go ahead and shout out my OG sponsors, Goat Capital Sports. Everybody, if you are looking for a betting solution, a betting service for any of the other sports on the table, baseball, basketball, professional curling, especially with golf, Goat Capital Sports has got you covered. Find them at GoatCapital_ on Twitter. They've been with me since the get-go. I've been shouting them out every single week for like almost 2 years at this point. They are awesome. Their golf picks, no bullshit. Like, I will point you to them for everything. I do MMA myself, obviously, but they do pretty well in all the other sports. But golf, holy shit, they destroyed golf on Saturday. Very reasonably priced packages with a no-loss guarantee. If you lose a week on their picks, they refund you the price of their picks package. So check them out. No harm, no foul. Goat Capital Sports _ on Twitter. Let them know I sent you their way. Next fight coming up, man. We have got the battle for the ages.
Ooh.
What is it? Dr. Pepper versus Reese's Cups? Is that?
Yep. I'm automatically on the Dr. Pepper side here because I'm allergic to nuts. So let's just put it that way.
Well, see, and I'm all team Reese's Cups, man. That's my favorite candy under the sun. So the red versus blue in effect, man.
I like it.
Adrian Yanez, 13-3. You may know him as Mini Masvidal. Randy Costa, 6-1. Just a deadly finisher. What a fight. Like, this is going to be super fun. This is literally a snack fight. These guys respect each other. They're friends. They like each other. They got into a back and forth about the snacks and we're like, hey, let's fight. Like, it's literally fun and games for them, this matchup. I love that they set this up themselves. And the UFC was like, fuck it. All right, sure. Go for it.
I love it. Yeah, they, like you said, they definitely set it up themselves. Not to mention, I'm not sure if you saw the thing on MMA Junkie they released today, but they're literally going head to head with why they like Dr. Pepper and why they like Reese's Cups and going head to head. As a hilarious. Shout out to Nolan King for putting that together.
I did not see that, and I'm going to have to go check that out because that's amazing. I think, so don't get me wrong, I am all for getting my blood pumping when my heart rate goes up because I see the UFC marketing machine behind one of their big champions, a big finisher. We get all amped up and everybody's palms are sweaty waiting for a fight to happen. We need more stuff like this. We need more stuff where it's like these guys are just fucking fun, man. Like when Chase Hooper started going and they had the son, what's his name? He was supposed to be the son of the curly headed fuck. Like that was like they need to just steer more into that kind of thing because fun fights are also good.
Yeah, I'm surprised the UFC's not like banging on Reese's and Dr. Pepper to actually sponsor these guys for the fight. Like just
put them in the corners.
Hell yeah.
Like legitimately get Dr. Pepper on Reese's on board, have half the cage with one, half the cage with the, it's a perfect opportunity, man.
If the winner doesn't either chug a Dr. Pepper or eat a Reese's Cup after they win, I'm going to be disappointed. I'm going to be disappointed.
They need to have that prepped and ready for sure. All right, man. So Adrian Yanez, like I said, little Masvidal, and he fights that way. Like it's a perfect way to describe this kid. Very technical, extremely calm and composed for his age, which is something that you can't teach. You know what I mean? Like he is just so unfazed when he's in the cage. Fast hands, sharp boxing, vicious power, and an iron chin. Like he's eating some shots. He does not give a fuck. He just keeps walking forward. I like this kid a lot. Now, Randy Costa, you don't mess with the Zohan. I love that that's this guy's fight name. But he's almost the exact opposite, man. He's long, rangy, he's slick on the feet, but he does everything with explosiveness, with speed, throws wild shit from way out of range. He's coming off of a nasty head kick KO over Journey Newsom. And this is one of those guys that sets traps on the feet with all that crazy movement and then walks you into a bomb. Totally polar opposites. You know what I mean? Their styles. It's going to make for a fun clash of styles. And I feel like the durability of Adrian Yanez is going to make the difference. I almost feel like Randy Costa is going to break against the brick wall that is Adrian Yanez. If he continues throwing himself at this kid with the type of speed, the power, the explosion that he does, Yanez is eventually going to find the chin, and I don't think Costa can take as good of a shot as Yanez can. So I'm kind of siding with Adrian Yanez in this spot, but again, I really don't like this price tag, especially with the kind of output Randy Costa has, with the kind of fight-ending power we've seen him have. It's hard to say that he's got the death touch at bantamweight, but he's pretty damn close. So I can totally understand anybody taking a dog shot on Randy Costa with the kind of heat that he brings. Are you team Dr. Pepper or team Reese's, Locke? Tell me, how do you see this fight?
Again, like I said, automatically I got to be team Dr. Pepper just because of my nut allergy. But in terms of this fight specifically, I think there's a ton of hype on that price line or that tag of Mr. Yanez minus 200-ish. I think it should be a little bit closer given I believe that Randy Costa is definitely making some improvements down there at Sanford MMA. Before he came to the UFC, he was strictly just working out of that gym up in Massachusetts. I can't remember the gym's name, but you could definitely see how raw he was, but he was getting away with all the power that he was able to generate and put out his opponents. I remember wanting to fade him time and time again whenever he was in the UFC just because, I do believe that if he gets out of the first round, he's going to be in some trouble. I didn't fade him against Boston Salmon as I was a little bit questionable about Boston Salmon's chin and obviously short in that fight. I did fade him against Journey Newsom as I believe that Newsom was going to be able to handle the strike and then eventually get the fight to the ground and maybe submit Randy Costa in that second round. But Costa showed, solid improvements. That was his first time working down there at Sanford MMA, and it could have been ATT. But right now, I know for sure he's at Sanford MMA. But it did already look like he was making some improvements. but there's only so much you can take from like a 40-second fight. You need to see him fully fleshed out and see if he can actually put it together for even 10 minutes. Show us 10 minutes of Randy Costa, showing good cardio and showing good technique the entire time, and then I'll be a little bit more sold on him. But the Yanez, man, his fucking hands look amazing. His boxing is just on par. He has such a good knack for gauging distance and just waiting to open up for his shots. Great counters. The guy's just so good. It's so tough to go against Yanez at this spot. But you got to believe when you're looking at the weapons that both of these guys have, Randy Costa definitely has more weapons when we're talking about striking wise, whereas Yanez is definitely a little bit more focused on his hands. But the thing that gives me pause in terms of going so deep on Yanez, even at this price tag, is the potential developments that we're going to be seeing Costa make, especially with him full-time now down there at Sanford MMA, full-time making those leaps and those improvements. But we got to see it in the cage first and foremost. So I do believe he could potentially have a gas tank issue and a possible issue with being broken. And if there's anybody that can break anybody, it's fucking Adrian Yanez, man. He's going to march forward, he's going to stay in your face, and he's going to try to knock you the hell out. And I think we're going to get a great fight here. I can already see the bookmakers making the total 1.5, which leaves me in a precarious position. Because if it was 2.5, I'd probably take the under. But the 1.5 gives me a little bit of pause. The fight that doesn't go to decision will probably be a nice spot, as I do think that we'll see a finish in this fight. But I do lean the Yanez side. I just think the price tag is a little bit too wide because we're not accounting for the potential improvements that we're going to see from Costa. And not to mention, I believe that there's a hype tax, if that's what you want to call it, on Yanez's price tag right now. So yeah,
I like that phrase, Locke. We're going to use that. The hype tax.
I have the Russian tax for anybody that has their name ending with ovs, and now we got the Yanez hype tag or hype tax. But again, should be a closer fight than the odds indicate. But I am going to give the advantage to the slick boxing of Mr. Dr. Pepper over there. I do think he'll be able to evade the big shots of Costa and eventually put him out probably in the second round. Am I going lock of the night deep on it though? No, I got to give my due to Costa. He could make improvements. He's still young, and now he's finally with a legitimate team. So. Yeah, the pick is Yanez, but the line is a little bit too wide for me.
Danny's got over 1.5 at -150.
That's going to be a sweat if I've ever seen one.
Right? I mean, imagine taking an over in a Randy Costa fight. Seriously.
So, yeah. Yeah, no, I always thought that his downfall will always be anybody that can survive that first round. Brandon Davis showed us in the first fight, right? But this is definitely a way different Randy Costa than the Randy Costa that fought Brandon Davis in his debut.
Absolutely. And I mean, man, that's a fight. Brandon Davis doesn't get enough credit. That guy is way better than people realize. And I hold true to the fact that if he keeps on his path, I think we'll see him in the UFC again someday because he's just too skilled. He's like Sijara Eubanks, where he's got a bad record. He got a couple bad bounces. He lost a couple of fights that he very easily could have won. And he's just too skilled everywhere. I think Brandon Davis makes his way back, but that's one hell of a fight.
Such a tough resume that he had to deal with in the UFC, right? He lost Kyle Bochniak, Enrique Barzola, Zabit, Mr. Perfect, Kyung Ho Kang, who fights next week, and Giga Chikadze, those last two being split decision losses as well.
Splits.
So, yeah.
Split decision losses. No, Brandon Davis is a UFC caliber fighter. I cannot wait until he debuts back in the UFC and he's like plus 175 or some shit because everybody remembers how much of a bum he was. I will crush the return of Brandon Davis.
For sure.
Yeah, man, this is, I think you nailed it on the head. The improvements of Randy Costa are really going to be the tail of this fight, and it all comes down to that. So, honestly, I'm probably going to get a pack of Reese's and just watch this one. I'm not planning on betting it unless, again, I can never say never. But, man, if all the money just keeps pouring in on Adrian Yanez, I might have to take that dog shot because it's already a little wide in my opinion, just for where these two guys are at in their career. But with that hype tax of Yanez, because he looks like Masvidal, because of the crazy knockouts, it's like people forget how much power Costa has. And if he's training at a good, solid gym like Sanford MMA, man, if he just slows down a little bit. Now, okay, I'm going full nerd here, folks. Like you all know, I'm a nerd. I'm a geek. I'm a gamer. I grew up playing Yu-Gi-Oh! But if anybody remembers the OG Pokemon movie, when they put the helmet on Mewtwo and he talks to Giovanni and he goes, "Why are my powers being suppressed?" And he goes, "They're not being suppressed. They're being focused." That line has stuck with me my entire life. And that's like whenever you see a fighter much like Randy, who dials it back just a little, like Gilbert Burns did, just a little against Thompson. They take that step up. Their power's being focused. And if they do that with this kid, he's going to be a problem. So
Question for you, Clint. When's the last time you watched that Pokemon movie?
Dude, it's been a long time. It's been a long time. And that's what I'm telling you. It's stuck with me. It's still up in here.
Dude, I watched that when it came out in theaters, and I don't remember. I remember the scene that you're talking about, but I don't remember the specific words that he was saying. So shout out to you for having that up in the memory bank.
Hey, you had the memory of the proposal, right? Yeah. I can quote Mewtwo. I can quote Monty Python and the Search for the Holy Grail. And if you have ever heard Albuquerque by Weird Al Yankovic, to this day, I can sing the entire song for you, start to finish, and I haven't heard it in 12 years. So
you a big Weird Al fan? Is that what I'm taking from this, or what?
I grew up on Weird Al, man. I've seen the man in concert. I love Weird Al.
Little known fact for anybody who knows my dog Alfred, he is named after Weird Al. But
no, yes,
he'll be home making an appearance later in this podcast.
Dude, the bromance just gets better every time you come on the show. I shit you not.
I love it.
Okay, I don't know how we top that, man. The next fight, the next fight is gonna be Nassourdine Imavov taking on Ian the Hurricane Heinisch. Imavov is 9-3. Ian Heinisch is 14-4. Man, I was so high on Nassourdine Imavov. He was my guy, especially against Phil Hawes, man. I was so ready for this guy to be the one that showed up and got it done against Phil Hawes. But credit to Phil Hawes. I think his winning that fight was more the improvements of Phil Hawes than it was the non-offense of Nassourdine Imavov. Phil Hawes is not the same guy anymore. Ian Heinisch, they call him the Hurricane for a reason, man. This guy, he fights like a hurricane. It's all forward pressure. He comes in hard. He flurries. He's got pretty fast hands. I feel like he's a fringe contender who's just never quite gonna get there. The hardware is just not quite enough for him to get over that hump. I think Ian Heinisch is going to settle in as a solid gatekeeper. He's 1-3 in his last 4 fights, and he really struggles when he doesn't have the physical edge on his opponents. And he's got those little T-Rex arms. He can't quite get to anybody. Nassourdine Imavov, great gas tank. He's an excellent grappler. He's light on his feet. He strikes well moving backwards. He's young, but he's got such a big step up in competition ahead of him here in Ian the Hurricane Heinisch. This is one that I'm kind of struggling with a little bit. Another one that I've marked as kind of a watch and learn as opposed to maybe taking a stab on a bet. Ian Heinisch is currently a -150 favorite. You can get +130, +125 on Nassourdine Imavov. And I feel like, oh, man, I was going to say I feel like it's a dog or pass, but my soul says Ian Heinisch wins this fight. Like, coming off of the run he's had in his last 4 fights, he's kind of rededicated himself, and he's just pulled up short against some of the top contenders in the division. Now he's getting kind of that let your hair down moment, like, okay, you know, do you really belong at this level? Let's give you this young up-and-coming kid who's not only not quite there yet, but coming off a loss. Can you beat him? I feel like Ian Heinisch passes this test, man. Who do you got in this fight?
I really like Ian Heinisch in this spot. Now, I believe that we're in a buy low spot for Heinisch here, considering, like you said, we went over his resume a little bit, but those stylistic matchups were shout out to my guy PayPal DFS right there. He's right on the money here. I think that there's, like I said, buy low moment for Heinisch. Let's look at his last couple of fights, right? One thing that we know that he's really good at is kind of just putting the pace and pressure on his opponents, and then he usually has his wrestling to kind of just bail him out of bad positions. But when you have Brunson and Akhmedov and Gastelum, who are all better in wrestling than him, strictly wrestling, he's going to run into those troubles where he's getting outstruck by these guys because he doesn't have that wrestling to lean on. He is going to have that wrestling to lean on for days in this fight against Nassourdine Imavov, who just seems to have an issue in terms of whenever somebody clinches up with him or pushes him up against the cage, he almost seems lost in terms of like, what should I do? He seems to fish for that high guillotine, high elbow guillotine. A lot tries to do ninja chokes, Bravo chokes, whatever the hell it is. But it's not. It's going to work on the regional scene. He has a couple of those on the regional scene. It's not going to work at this high level, especially against a guy like Ian Heinisch. So yeah, when you look at the striking numbers and all that stuff and his performances against the Akhmedovs and the Brunsons, it doesn't look that great, especially when he's going up against this. I'll give it to Imavov. He's a solid striker. He has the Russian sniper nickname is aptly given here, I think. But when he's dealing with somebody that's going to push him up against the cage and rough him up the way Heinisch is, I think he's going to be in for a long night here. There's just been so many times. We can even just look at the Phil Hawes fight, right? Phil Hawes just has so many instances where he's getting rocked in that third round, but he just clinches up with Imavov. Imavov's like, all right, let's do this. Let's go against the cage, and maybe I'll find some success there. No, you're not going to find any success there, Imavov. But even if he tries to work on that here, I think he's going to be outgunned here against Heinisch. Now, I've seen a couple of things out there about Heinisch potentially having gas tank issues. I disagree with that. I think that, he obviously won the third round against Akhmedov. Akhmedov, obviously a guy that notoriously starts to slow down as well. Mm-hmm. But he was having a lot of success in that third round against Kelvin Gastelum too, right? That was a decent round for him, but he was still a little bit of a step behind Kelvin Gastelum. But we're not going to be getting Kelvin Gastelum type of wrestling or wrestling IQ, grappling IQ from Nassourdine Imavov. He's not going to get any space to get his striking going. I'd be surprised if he knocks out Ian Heinisch. I think Heinisch has great durability. I think his cardio is good enough as well too. I love Heinisch in this spot. It shows time and time again, even when he goes up against wrestlers, when he feels like he's in a little bit of trouble, he goes to the wrestling. It didn't work in those fights. It's going to work in this fight. And I'd be surprised if he doesn't implement it right off the bat. And the last thing I'll leave you with about this, another Sanford MMA product, fully committed to Sanford. He just bought a house a couple months ago with his wife down in Florida. He's fully committed to that gym. And who else trains there? Phil Hawes, who just fought Nassourdine Imavov, who came up with a great game plan to go out there and stifle the striking of Imavov. You got to believe they're going to be going to that well once again. And I just don't see Nassourdine kind of fixing that. I lied. One more thing about it. Nassourdine Imavov, regarding his cardio, decent cardio, obviously, when it's against a guy like Phil Hawes. If you remember that Jordan Williams fight, halfway through the round, the guy's like looking up at the clock, like, fuck, we still have 2.5 minutes of this shit to go. Like, I believe when he's pushed, he has a gas tank issue as well. And I think that Heinisch is going to push him. He's not going to get off him. White on rice this whole fight. And I'm taking the Heinisch. I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes him late, but I'm going to go with decision. I do like Heinisch here, and I like him a lot in this spot.
Man, if there is one thing that Nassourdine Imavov, whether we think he's got an okay gas tank, a good gas tank, a bad gas tank, he's not going gas for gas with Ian Heinisch.
No.
Like, that guy don't stop. So that's a very valid point. And Locke, I was leaning towards Ian Heinisch as my pick, probably passing. I may be joining you after talking it through you on the bet. Because
let's go. Last thing. Sorry, -150 against Brunson pre-fight. That just lets you know what people were thinking about this guy before that fight. Yeah. And it showed in that fight. Brunson's wrestling background is better than a Heinisch. No shame in that. Akhmedov, same thing, better wrestling background than a Heinisch. But now we know Heinisch is going to have the grappling advantage in this fight. He might get outstruck on the feet, but it's going to be tough to knock him out or have massive damage against Heinisch when he has his back against the cage for the entire fight. So, yeah, I like Heinisch in the spot.
Man, and that game plan of Ian Heinisch to just pin people against the fence, like, that's in the small cage, in the apex, that's going to be a problem. And honestly, we talked about how last week was ATT fight week, right? Like, everybody from ATT. It's Sanford MMA fight week this week, man. And with him having a couple brothers on the card, with him having some people training, pushing him, peaking all at the same time together, and like you said, fully committing to Sanford MMA, I think that's a good move. I think that's a great move. And yeah, man, I think Ian Heinisch is the play here. So I might be dropping 1.5 to win one on Ian Heinisch with you here come Saturday.
-150 is a great line in my opinion. That's the line that I got. And last thing about the gym thing, if you guys remember, he was a Factory X guy with Mark Montoya. Then he hopped on over to Tiger Muay Thai for a little while to work on his striking. But now, again, fully committed, buys a house in Florida, staying down there, seems fully committed to that team. Yeah, I think we're going to see the best Ian Heinisch that we've seen in a long time in this fight.
You're right, man. You're so right. And this is a spot where I've done this before in the past. I have jumped off of a train because I'm getting the same recency bias that everybody else is. He's been facing the division's elite. Like, this is the time to get back on the train. So, yeah, man, let's go. All right, I'm in for Ian Heinisch. Let's do this.
Let's go.
So, next fight up, I'm highly disappointed to let you all know we will not be talking about Shamil Abdurakhimov versus Chris Daukaus because someone in the corner of Shamil has popped for COVID. Damn the Delta variant. That one's getting pushed to next week. So it was just a corner man. It wasn't one of the fighters. Thankfully, we're not going to have to wait too long for it. They should be in action again next week. So closing out the preliminary card, as far as we should know, is actually going to be, if my stupid cursor would work with me here, a barn burner, dude. Punahele Soriano taking on Brendan Allen. This is a fight. Like, holy crap, man. They picked a phenomenal fight to end off the preliminary card. I've liked almost every fight we've talked about so far from like an entertainment perspective. This should be a really fun preliminary card to watch. And for it to cap off with this one, which should be an absolute barn burner, the way these two guys fight. Like I said, orgy of violence at UFC Vegas 32. I'm going to keep saying it so you're all uncomfortable in the chat as I repeat it.
Me too over here.
Punahele Soriano, man, 8-0, undefeated. He's a Hawaiian warrior coming out of Extreme Couture, and he's basically a miniature version of Francis Ngannou at this point. Big power in those hands. Brendan Allen is 16-4, so obviously going to have the experience edge. He's had a couple bumps in the road, but man, he's training at this place, and it's on the tip of my tongue. But I can't quite. Oh, it's Sanford MMA. He's training out of Sanford MMA with the rest of the boys. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's got lots of kicks. He attacks the low calf. He's got a strong body lock. He mixes in trip takedowns. And honestly, man, when he's on top, he's got excellent shoulder pressure. He's got that grinding top game. And I think he's going to have a speed advantage here against Punahele, believe it or not. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage. And, man, I cashed in hard on Punahele against Dusko the last time out. Dusko's one of those guys that leads with his chin. And if you give anybody who relies on their durability versus Punahele, I'm going to bet Soriano because this guy hits like an absolute Mack truck. And I see a lot of love for Puna online. I'm kind of thinking contrarian here, man. I'm actually a little bit with Brendan Allen in this spot simply because he does not lead with his chin. He absolutely tries to out-savvy people, and with the kicking game that he's got, he's going to be able to stay at range. He is going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. If he can play the Matador, Punahele comes out like a wild man. I mean, when he was facing Dusko, he was just swinging wild. It looked like Francis Ngannou versus Rosenstruik, man. Like there was no technique. There was no setting stuff up. He was just barreling bull in a china shop at his opponent looking for that knockout, and you could feel it coming. But if he does that against someone like Brendan Allen, I feel like Allen's going to hit the side. He's going to grab the body lock. He's going to go for a trip. He's going to transition to the back. Like he can do so many things to avoid that kind of a battle. And if he does that, I mean, I want to see what Punahele looks like in round 2. I want to see what Punahele looks like in round 3. We don't know yet. So it's a bit weird for me, man, because I knowingly and openly have a bias against 4 fighters who have the big power advantage. That's like always what sucks me in is if the guy's got the knockout capability, I usually tend to lean that direction. But for some reason, I feel like the experience, the cage time, the additional maybe a little bit of savvy from working with Sanford MMA is going to lead Brendan Allen to extending this fight and potentially getting away with the decision or maybe even a late finish once Punahele finds himself in the 3rd round for the first time and figures out he doesn't have much of a gas tank after he goes for the finish. I know I've said this a couple times already, but I really don't know that I'm actually betting this fight. It's a pick'em price tag for a reason. If Puna wins, he's going to look like a minus 300 because he probably clips the chin of Brendan Allen and then ground and pounds him into oblivion. But if Brendan Allen gets in on a takedown, if he can take down Puna, if he can pin him up against the cage, if he can fill those arms up with blood, like he could end up looking just as dominant if his game plan goes the way that he would expect it to go. So talk to me, Locke. I'm lost. How do you see this fight playing out? And for the maybe one and only pick'em price tag on the card, who do you got winning?
Yeah, dude, you're right on the head here in terms of how close this fight could look pre-fight, but once the fight actually finishes, one side's probably going to look like minus 300. Now, Puna does have a bit of a wrestling background here. I do think that it should help him at least early in this fight to keep the fight vertical, and then from there, he should be able to punish Brendan Allen on the feet. The question mark is, though, we don't see much of Puna on his back. There's not much tape out there to actually see, okay, will he be okay, and will he be able to, keep Brendan Allen in his guard, or is he going to be easily sliced through like butter. There's no evidence of that, at least at a higher level. Brendan Allen, probably the best BJJ guy he's fought to this point. And I also find it funny that Brendan Allen and Ian Heinisch were scheduled to fight each other a couple months ago. Now they're training partners down there at Stanford MMA, which I find hilarious. I know it has nothing to do with this fight, but I just find that fact a little bit hilarious. But I do like, I am leaning Puna here, man. I do think that he has the power to go out there and put the lights out of Brendan Allen. I feel like Allen, even though he's working at a striking heavy camp with Stanford MMA, Henry Hoof obviously known to really help fighters with their striking and kind of bring it up to another level like he has done for Gilbert Burns and Vicente Luque and some of those guys over there. But yeah, shout out to DFS. Puna has gone 15 before, beat Jamie Pickett by decision. But again, Jamie Pickett, I don't really know if he's truly caught out to be a UFC fighter. I think he's on the lower level there. Allen, definitely a much better fighter than him too. I ultimately do think that the strength and the power of Puna is going to be too much in this spot. I don't think that Brendan Allen will be able to drag this fight to the ground. I do think that if they end up in clinch positions, Puna could show his strength there, reverse the position, break away, and then start letting his bombs go. And not to mention, you got to believe that Eric Nixick is having a true impact on Puna as well, training out of Extreme Couture, really, helping him round his game out, which is why I think he was able to knock out Duško Todorovic the way that he did too, right? There were certain little adjustments that he made during the fight to close that distance a little bit better and land on the chin a little bit better, and then eventually getting that finish, I believe, at the ending of the first round. I expect him to do the same thing here, man. I think that once Allen gets hit a couple times by Puna here, he's going to be like, fuck. Maybe some desperation shots, which will leave him a little bit more open. Maybe he runs into an uppercut from Puna or something when he's trying to go for a desperation takedown. But I do think that Puna does win this fight. If it goes deep, if it goes past the 1.5, I'd be a little bit more skeptical. I'm not saying that Puna is a notorious gasser, but I do think that Allen will have the advantage if this fight does go the full 3 rounds. And I do think that his submission game will be a lot more dangerous in the latter half of the second round and the third round. But I don't even know if it's gonna end up getting there. So I do like Puna here. I think his wild winging style is going to work here against Allen, and I think he'll be able to find the finish here. So I'm leaning Puna. I want to see where this line goes as the fight week continues. Like I don't know if we're going to see even any budging of this pick'em line. Are we going to get some plus money on Puna? If that's the case, I might be forced to take a little bit of a play on him there. But I also think somebody said it in the chat already. Take him by KO. You're probably maximizing the amount you're going to get off of Puna if he gets that knockout, which I think he should be able to do here against Brendan Allen. So yeah, I like Puna. I'll be targeting that KO prop once we get some eyes on it. And yeah, I like Puna in the spot.
Okay. All right. So there's our disagreement on the minus 110 line.
Surprise.
Not one that I feel confident on at all, though. So, if you feel confident enough to make a bet, I will caution the viewers to listen to Locke more so than me, because I'm not touching this one with my money. And if he says it's a good enough spot to bet, there's definitely a confidence edge there if you're picking a side.
I don't know if I'll say it's confident enough to actually make a bet, but again, I want to see the line. I want to see the line movements, and then obviously the props once they start to drop.
I feel you. This is going to be, if you can bet on fight of the night, though,
just one.
Maybe this might be the one if you can get that, value on fight of the night bets. All right, man, we're about to click on over for the main card here, but first we definitely want to hear from our sponsors. Kicking off the main card of UFC Vegas 32 is Mickey Gall taking on Jordan Williams. And man, the UFC will not give up on Mickey Gall. They are absolutely trying to make this man a thing and giving him every opportunity in the book. He still does have one of the all-time greatest walkout songs. The fact that he actually comes out to Hey Mickey just makes me so happy every time he does it. But Gall is 6-3, so still doesn't even have 10 professional MMA fights. Something that I didn't realize until I actually kind of went back and looked through his career. Man, his second pro MMA fight was in the UFC. Like, this is a guy that we have all ragged on, we've all given a ton of shit for, but he legitimately has grown up in front of us. Like, nobody gets to the UFC at 1-0. And I know it was a special circumstance because, you know, he was taking on a pro wrestler that was trying to transition. It was a whole thing. But the fact that he is even still here says something, because that is an uphill battle at a very, very steep incline to stay alive in the UFC with that little experience. Jordan Williams, 9-4. He's another Contender Series kid. He comes out of Factory X. He's a diabetic, something that I think is interesting that he's able to fight professionally with. Kind of cool. Credit to him for keeping an eye on everything there. But he doesn't cut a whole lot of weight. So he's another one of these guys that's very naturally suited to welterweight because physically he can't. So he generally has a good gas tank. He keeps a crazy pace. He's got fast hands, good forward pressure, but he brawls, man. This kid relies on his chin. He drops his hands, and he goes to war every single time he goes out there. But he's got a freaking brick of a chin. He just does not get cracked. Mickey Gall, we know his forte is jiu-jitsu. Like, that was his whole thing when he got started, was that he was a slick jiu-jitsu player. But he's really started to add wrinkles in with his striking. He's been training with Matt Brown. He's got improved footwork. In round 1, he actually gave Mike Perry a decent run for his money. He showed a nice jab. He's got good straight punches down the pipe, and he's got some hard leg kicks, man. He's really worked on those leg attacks, and lesser people, I think, would have had a problem with some of the leg kicks he hit Mike Perry with. But we know Mike Perry's just a freak of nature brawler that doesn't stop for any damage whatsoever. Mickey Gall is active off of his back. He's always using submission attacks to sweep, get back up to his feet. But he's another one of these guys, Locke, that gasses in round 3. He slows down terribly. Now, in his last fight, not so much. I'll give him the credit that's due. I do think he's evolving as a mixed martial artist because he didn't slow down nearly as bad in his last fight in that 3rd round. He still had a little energy. He was still jumping up and down, light on his toes. He had more than we're used to him seeing. Man, this is such a weird spot for me because I don't think that Jordan Williams is the total package necessarily, but the kind of hell that he unloads on the feet, I do think someone like Mickey's going to struggle with. What I would like to see is if Mickey Gall would go back to his roots. I think if Mickey Gall comes out here and grapples rather than trying to play on the feet, I think he could actually have some serious success and even pull the upset here in this fight. The problem is it's Mickey Gall. I have no idea what the hell this guy's going to do when he gets into the cage. Jordan Williams, we know he's going to storm forward. We know he's going to try and pop Mickey in the mouth and knock him out. Whether or not he gets there before he gets taken down, that's the question. So I'm kind of honestly leaving with Mickey Gall here. I'm going to say dog or pass situation. I don't want to lay this kind of price tag on a guy like Jordan Williams who's still unproven, still untested. Yeah, he can kill Mickey with one good shot on the chin, but I also can absolutely see him being stuck on his back for the entire night or even, trying to get up and giving up a rear naked choke or something like that. Really not a fight I'm interested in betting, but if I was gonna, I'd be taking the shot on Gall, Lock. How are you seeing this one?
This is like numero uno in terms of fight to avoid, in my opinion. I have no interest in betting in this fight because there's just so much unknowns in terms of what Jordan Williams is going to bring to the table regarding being down at 170 pounds now, cutting weight to go down to 170 rather than fighting at 185 as he has usually done so. And then what Mickey Gall, I did back him against Mike Perry last time. I had a number that I did really like. I thought that he would be able to ground Mike Perry. It seemed as though he was really packing on some muscle to try to go out there and grapple fight Mike Perry. But it turned out to be the opposite. He got the better of the striking in the first round. He won the first round after landing the bigger shots. And then in rounds 2 and 3, we see Mike Perry go out there and just grapple fuck him and just stay dominant on top. And Mickey Gall start to wear that damage and really start to slow down. Well, Jordan Williams, on the other hand, one of the few guys that had to take 3 cracks on the Contender Series before finally getting that shot after knocking out Gregory Rodriguez, who just had a very impressive debut against Duško Todorovic a couple of weeks ago. But I do like I like Jordan Williams ever so slightly in this spot. I do think that he'll be able to eventually find that chin of Gall. I think he'll start to break him and then start to really start to put it on him probably in the 2nd or 3rd round. But we just don't know what Jordan is going to look like, 1, on the skills, to how that could potentially affect his cardio, which is already suspect in my opinion. Even Gall, very suspect cardio on him too. So this seems like, in my opinion, and I hate to say this about fighters, I have the utmost respect for all these fighters, but it seems like the lowest level fight on the card, albeit, outside of Deanna Belbita and Hannah Goldy, right? I truly think that both these guys lack a lot in skills, no matter where they are. I know that the better grappler in this situation is Gall, at least on paper. Let's see how it looks inside the MMA cage once these guys start punching each other in the face. What's that famous saying? Like, as you start to punch a guy, he starts dropping his rank and belts, right? I expect
that black belt becomes a white belt when you punch him in the mouth.
Exactly. So I think that could potentially be the thing here too. We've seen Jordan Williams in some fucking brawls too, right? His fight against Imavov, both guys gassed and having success, at certain times. Even his fight on the Contender Series, the second last one that he had against the Russian guy, very close fight, went his way obviously that night, I believe. But very close fight back and forth. I lean Jordan Williams here, but I just can't justify the price tag on him. This should be closer to a pick'em. The value is obviously on the Mickey Gall side of things here. And like you said, he's making improvements. We've seen him grow up in the cage, second pro fight inside the UFC. That's got to be huge, not to mention, being against CM Punk in such a wide scope. There's so many eyes on that fight, and he goes out there and just absolutely mollywops CM Punk there. But I can't confidently pick a side here, especially with the line being what it is. Value on Gall, but my pick is going to be Jordan Williams. I think he finds that knockout probably first or second round in this fight. No real confidence on this at all.
Okay. Man, I think fight doesn't go the distance, or the under 2.5. If we can get any type of half decent number is kind of the way to go here. Jordan Williams, he's got a heart for days, man. He can absolutely, if anybody is going to recreate Darren Elkins' win where he took a beating for 15 minutes and then turned the tables on Mirsad Bektic and came back in the third round, he's the kind of kid that could do that. If you give Jordan Williams just the slightest opportunity, he will take it and he'll make you pay for it. So I can see him, like, if Mickey Gall goes out there and decides he wants to grapple, if he doesn't get the finish early, I'd be live betting Jordan Williams, because there's a chance that he can survive and come back in the second or the third round and then hurt Mickey Gall when he slows down, because Williams never slows down. So yeah, man, little confidence, probably not betting it. Maybe the violence, that'd probably be the only way I'd look at actually putting my money on this one.
I will say this, the striking improvements from Gall are very impressive, especially what he was able to do against Mike Perry early in that first round. But like, how much more improved is it going to be? And once he starts feeling some resistance, which I fully expect him to feel from Jordan Williams here, is he going to be able to keep that up? And will his cardio be able to keep up too? So too many question marks. The odds are out of whack, in my opinion. Just one that I don't even want to bother with, to be honest.
Danny in here with the snipe. Looks like under 2.5 opened up at -120.
Not bad.
I wouldn't hate that.
Yeah, I don't mind that either.
My guy Ryan Grant saying chug some Fireball and lay off this one. That right there, that's the move.
I like it. Shout out Ryan Grant. That's my guy right there.
That's what's up, Ryan. All right, man. Next fight up, we have got Maycee Barber taking on Miranda Maverick. Does she still go by the Future? Is that still the fight name for Maycee?
I think you got to change it at this point.
Right? Like
the present Maycee, the present Barber. I don't know.
Full Diego Sanchez and become the dream instead of the nightmare. She's got to be Maycee the past Barber now or something. Man. Like,
struggling Maycee Barber. I don't know.
Holy shit! This is a sign of the UFC waving that white flag. Maycee Barber was the next big star. They gave her the biggest push we've seen in women's MMA since Ronda freaking Rousey. They bought in on this girl, and then when she got handled by Alexa Grasso, they're like, oh. Okay, all right, fine. No more. You're taking Miranda Maverick, sink or swim. Like, they're absolutely putting her feet to the fire in this fight. How do you feel about the way they're treating Maycee Barber and the matchup here with Miranda Maverick?
It's interesting, right? Like the Roxanne Modafferi fight, I believe she was on the main card of the McGregor fight, McGregor versus Cerrone way back in the day, loses that fight, and then she gets served up Alexa Grasso, very tough opponent, and she ends up losing that fight too. Now she's taking on another up-and-coming prospect and Miranda Maverick, who seems to have the edge in this fight, as the odds actually indicate. So yeah, I think they're just like, we've given you enough time. Let's put you up against legitimate girls, and let's see how you fare in this matchup. And I think she's going to have a tough time personally.
I tend to agree, man. And I'm kind of kicking myself because those of you who have been with me for a while know Alexa Grasso's my girl. Like,
I was all over that one. I was all over that matchup. I was so happy to hit that one. I was so happy to hit that.
I bought into the Maycee Barber 2.0, man. I was like, she's too young. She's too athletic. She's too strong. She will make improvements. She will make adjustments. And she did none of those things. And then the other thing is Alexa Grasso, she was moving up a weight class.
Yeah.
And I did not expect her to fill out the way that she did. I thought she was going to be at a significant strength deficit and that Maycee Barber, worst case scenario, would just be able to kind of blanket her for the rest of the fight. So I'm kind of upset that I doubted one of the women in the UFC that I would count myself as a simp for. That could have been a simp bet on Alexa Grasso, and I completely missed the opportunity. But the fact that Macy showed no improvements whatsoever is terrifying to me. Like, you had all that time off. I know you're coming off of a layoff, off of an injury, but all the things that I was like, you know what, that's a rookie mistake, but we can fix it. That's a rookie mistake, but we can fix it. She did them all. There was no new wrinkle. She was the same fighter that fought Roxanne Modafferi. So now she's officially moved her camp to Team Alpha Male, which I do believe is a good move. However, she's essentially been a Ronin lately. She's been lost, man. She has been hopping from camp to camp to camp to camp. And until she finds that home, until she finds that coach that really connects with her, she's never really going to break through and make those improvements that we're looking for her to make. I do think that Alpha Male is probably a good fit for her, considering the wrestling heavy game plan that they usually tend to go with, the physicality that she has available to her, just the raw power. Team Alpha Male knows how to harness that. So if she fits in at Team Alpha, if she stays at Team Alpha, I think there's a chance that that could be the home for her. But I also almost got to wonder if she's not the problem here. I also got to wonder if the hype that she had coming in, if she's maybe not difficult to work with or difficult to coach. You know, maybe her dad is involved and doesn't want to, you know, have the coach tell her shit if she says she feels like she knows. You know what I mean? Like, I got to wonder if that's kind of the situation that we're dealing with here. So I cannot trust Maycee Barber to make improvements, even though, just like last time, I feel like they're coming here.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised to see improvements here. Again, Team Alpha Male is definitely not what it used to be, but it's still a good, safe place for fighters to come over there and improve their game. There's another fighter that we're going to be talking about later on in this card who is over at Team Alpha Male as well now too, and I feel like it's definitely going to help them out. But to what extent is it truly going to help that specific fighter out, right? At the end of the day, it comes down to stylistically, how do you match up with your opponent that you have coming up this weekend? And personally, like, if you want my take on it right away, I think Maverick wins this fight. I was leaning Maycee Barber pre-tape, and I was putting it out to all my members and everybody that in my Discord channel and stuff. I'm saying my early lean for Dog of the Night has got to be Maycee Barber, right? She clean striker, big power, probably one of the best power punchers in that division, and in all of the women's MMA to begin with. But once you start taking that step up in competition, then it gets harder and harder to put these women away. And everything that we've seen from Maverick thus far has shown us that she has some solid durability. She can go out there and is making improvements on a fight-to-fight basis. She's not taking the giant cap thing to go out there and try to make improvements. She's staying local, right? She trains with former UFC fighter Matthew, what's his name? Semizer, I believe his name was. I can't remember just off the top of my head, but I believe it's down there in Oklahoma somewhere where she was just training home camp, not really going anywhere to try to make any crazy improvements. But I like that she's staying with that camp. They're making the improvements until, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? That's kind of the saying here. And I think that's what they're doing with Miranda Maverick in the spot. I think the striking is going to be competitive, slight power edge to Maycee Barber, but I don't think it's going to be massive to the point where she's just going to get knockdown after knockdown. But I think the main thing here is going to be the grappling. I think the Miranda Maverick is going to be the stronger fighter in this spot. I think she has the skills to go out there and mix in her striking with her grappling, just as we saw in the Jillian Robertson fight. I know Jillian Robertson is a far cry from Maycee Barber, but I still do believe.
Luck.
I know. You're redheads. I won't go any deeper than that. But it was still very impressive to see her mix her striking combinations with the takedowns to win rounds. She's very good in terms of her fight IQ. And I find it difficult to believe that Barber is going to have super success on the feet, because she's going to be eating straights down the middle from a very strong and improving Miranda Maverick. And then it's going to be followed up with some clinch work up against the cage, followed by some takedowns. Yeah, I really like Maverick in this spot, especially, which is surprising to me, especially as I believe that I thought I was going to be going with Maycee Barber when this fight was initially put together. But after running the tape, it's hard to deny that Maverick deserves to be the favorite, which she is. And if I'm not mistaken, I saw the chat talking about it a little bit, but even looking at the line right now, it seems like it could potentially flip. We got the best line we're getting on Maverick is -125, +105 for Barber, but Barber opened up around +150. So we've seen some steady money come in on Barber. I still lean Maverick at the end of the day here, man. I think that her striking and her power and her strength is going to be too much for Barber. I think Barber needs a knockout or knockdowns in at least 2 rounds of this fight to truly win it. But I like Maverick to secure takedowns and just outpoint her pretty much everywhere.
Okay, man. I'm gonna side with the improvements of Maycee Barber. I'm gonna once again stick my neck out there and be like, hey, I think the changes will come. I did my Instagram stalking, and honestly, man, she looks like she's in phenomenal shape. I think she knows that this is kind of a do or die for her career. And given that, I feel like we're going to see a reinvigorated version of her. Miranda Maverick is, she's a tank, dude. She is so physically strong. And that's where, for all the slander against my Jillian Robertson, the one thing she can't handle is when she's out physicaled by somebody. She's got the strength advantage over everybody, and she mauls people with her ground game. But if you are stronger than her and she can't control you in the grappling, that's where she falls apart. So, these are the 2 worst case scenario opponents for my girl Jillian. And Miranda, I think this is going to be a car crash. These 2 are almost mirrors of each other. They're powerful, they're explosive, they're strong. They look to take each other, take their opponents down and grind on them. They've both got that flurry, that finishing instinct. They really are similar. So I believe the value absolutely was on the Maycee Barber side. +150, kind of a ridiculous number in my opinion. Yeah. This -130, +110, that makes more sense to me. I think that's more where the line should be. And I'm going to side with the underdog Macy to kind of, rescue her career here. We've seen the hype tax before, man. And I think that Miranda Maverick is the new, crowned champion of the women's hype tax. And we'll see what she can do here against somebody who's been getting rounds in, regardless of what's been going on. I do think that Maycee Barber has the higher level experience edge. Miranda Maverick was the beneficiary of a very good matchup for her to get her in the UFC. Impressive nonetheless. I'm not trying to take anything from her. But if she's not able to physically move Barber, what then? It'll come down to the striking, and I'm not sold on either of their striking personally. This could be a very close, very sloppy striking match in my opinion. So total pass. I'm going to say I think Barber kind of rescues her career and gets on the microphone and very cringely calls herself the future again and starts calling out Shevchenko and shit.
Oh, good Lord. Please don't do that to herself. Jesus.
So, all right, we got another disagreement, man. We can't go the whole card being on the same side.
I'm fine with that. I'm completely okay with that. A great fight again. This is a phenomenal fight. I can't wait to see who comes out on the winning end, but I got to slide slightly with the Maverick here.
I feel you. And somebody said violence bet. It looks like the 2.5 is -200 to the over and +160 to the under. They've both got the horsepower for a finish, but they're both so damn durable. These are the type of women, they remind me of Francisco Figueiredo. You don't knock the guy out. If you're slick, you can submit him. I would think someone like Jillian would have a shot at taking the back and getting the neck, that kind of thing. But if you're just going to go power for power, they're just going to slug it out. I think this one's going to make it to the judges' scorecards, and I think they're just going to beat the living hell out of each other.
I took the under 2.5 in the Maverick and Robertson fight, and I was sorely mistaken in that fight. But yeah, it seems like it could potentially be a plus money trap this weekend. Both girls look like they have finishing capabilities, but it ultimately comes down to their durability, which I think both of them have in droves here. So yeah, I like Maverick in this spot, but I think she's going to edge it out via decision.
I feel you there, man. I feel you. All right. Hey, it's a good fight. I can't wait for that one. See who really is the future.
Yes, sir.
We have got a hot fight coming up here next, man. Darren the Damage Elkins, one of my all-time favorite personalities in the UFC, taking on Darrick Minner. Elkins has so much experience. Both these guys have so much experience. I mean, Elkins 26-9, Minner is 26-11. Just they've seen everything that cage has to offer them. Elkins, I made reference to him a little bit earlier. This guy's whole game plan is centered around taking whatever you've got and then coming back and just punching you in the mouth and making you pay for it. He snapped a 4-fight losing streak his last time out, and honestly, man, I think people have been doing Darren Elkins a little dirty. I think he won that fight with Nate Landwehr. I don't know what your opinion is on that one, but I think that there's another fight very recently that I can compare it to, and that's the Jessica Eye fight, where the clash of heads caused the cut, bloodied her face up. And I think the judges lean so much into that. I think my boy, shout out to Z's MMA, he always talks about the optics. It's the optics of the MMA fight. You look at these two people punching each other, and one of them has blood spouting from their face. Yeah, they're taking the worst of it, man. Even though it was a headbutt that caused the damage and not anything else, Jessica Eye was on the wrong side of the optics for that fight in a very close decision. I think that's kind of what happened with Darren Elkins. He was bloody. Nate Landwehr was, roaring at Dana, even though he was on the wrong end of some of the exchanges that they were in. Darren outstruck Nate Landwehr in that fight in the significant strike department. I don't think he should have been on a 4-fight losing streak. I think he won that fight fair and square, and then he showed us what he's capable of in his last fight out. I don't know. Do you have a read on that situation? Do you agree with me that he beat Nate Landwehr that time out?
I thought it was a close fight. Obviously very bloody, like you're talking about, and it sucks that Elkins obviously gets cut so easily. So that's always a bit of a concern when you're talking about the judges. I'm just quickly looking over here at MMA decisions, which is kind of my holy grail in terms of getting what the wisdom of the crowd is. And it seems like media scoring was in favor of Landwehr. There were a couple of Elkins scorecards out there, but in terms of the fans, based on 151 scores, 90% Elkins won first round and 64% Elkins won round 3. So there's a 63% amount of people out of 151 that had Elkins winning that fight 29-28. So it could have gone either way. I do lean the Elkins side there, but that's the wisdom of the crowd, and I believe that they're on the money there.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we kind of see eye to eye there, man, but Darren, what he does is he keeps a high, tight guard, man. We talked about the scar tissue. This dude bleeds every single fight. He's got the damage tattooed on his chest because of it. He's got some pretty heavy hands. Like, the striking of Darren Elkins is not bad, but he's almost a Khabib-esque chain grappler, man. He gets on that body lock, and he does not let you go. He's got a smothering top game, and he should have embraced the grind underneath the damage, because that's what he does. He does not. He's like a dog on a bone, man. If he gets a hold of you, he just doesn't let go, and he mixes in knees to the legs and the body and just works you as soon as he gets you in that position. Like I said, he's made a career off of coming back from a beating. Now, Darrick Minner, he's kind of been the definition of sub or bust for the most part of his career, right? Like, until just recently with his move out to Glory MMA, he has been a guy that comes out hell on wheels in that first round, and then he's got nothing left to give about a minute and a half into the second round. So if he doesn't get you out early, he's not going to get you out, and more often than not, he himself is going to be tapping because he just uses up the entire gas tank to get that finish in the first round. Now, since moving to Glory MMA and training under James Krause, he got that fight with Charles Rosa, and he had a much, much more reserved game plan. He was much more heavy in the wrestling department, smothered him on top, floated, scrambled, looked for the back. It was much more of a complete performance for him, and he won a full 15-minute decision. Now, I don't know about you, Luck, but I really don't think that highly of Charles Rosa. He went life and death his last fight with Justin James, who's just an absolute powerhouse and also kind of a one-round fighter, and they ended up canceling each other out and going 15 minutes. Almost got clipped and taken out there in the third round. Like, man, I am not a believer in that fight, and I think we talked about it a little earlier in the night. This is a recency bias spot to me. I feel like Darrick Minner having this one solid performance against the perfect opponent has given people the wrong idea of who he is. Now, yes, people can change. Yes, people can grow. They can add new wrinkles to their game. But the fact is, this guy comes out hard in round one, and he doesn't save a lot of energy for the rest of the fight. The only reason that he was able to do what he did against Charles Rosa is because Charles accepts bottom. He goes to his back every single time. Like, if you're going to wrestle, he's like, fine, I play jiu-jitsu. Let's go. We see it time and time and time again. Darren Elkins is not going to accept bottom position from Darrick Minner. If Darrick Minner gets him down at all, he's popping straight back to his feet. Man, I think that Darren Elkins is the better wrestler. He has a 3-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. He is the bigger, stronger man in this situation. And the fact that he does not give up, he's got heart for days. And he, like I said, has made that career of coming back on people late. This is the exact kind of opponent that he will be able to break over the course of 12 minutes. If Darrick Minner doesn't finish him in round 1, Darren Elkins is going to eat his lunch for the next 2 rounds of the fight. I feel like the wrong fighter is favored because of recency bias. I've already taken the shot on Darren the Damage Elkins at plus 130, and I see that the world is disagreeing with me. Money is coming in on Darrick Minner, and I love it. Because if you get up to plus 150, plus 160 on Darren Elkins, I will add a second unit, baby. I think that the market is looking the wrong way in this fight. And I think if Darren makes Minner work, which, let's be honest, that's all he does. That's the only thing Elkins does in the cage is make somebody work. We'll see the old Minner pop up. We'll see him tire out again. We'll see him slow down. And I think Darren Elkins not only can get the win, but I think he can get a finish here.
I think I mistimed my entry on this Darren Elkins lines because I did take him as my dog of the night here. I got him at plus 133. I do like him in this spot as well. And you're right on the money in terms of, there's a heavy amount of recency bias on this just because the Charles Rosa fight. Show me a couple fights where Darrick Minner can actually go out there and implement that same game plan. Yep. Me and you both know that a gas tank always looks its best when you're having success in a fight. And that's exactly what Darrick Minner was having in that fight with Charles Rosa, taking him down time and time again, staying out of top positions because his jiu-jitsu is pretty good as well. But Charles Rosa wasn't really offering much off of his back either in that fight. He was quite offensive off of his back, but Darrick Minner was always a step ahead of him in terms of staying out of any close submission attempts or anything like that. But we know what Darrick Elkins does, man. He goes forward. He tries to take you down. He tries to grapple fuck you. He tries to just put a pressure on you that's eventually going to break you. And he does it to fighters time and time again. Skill-wise, a lot of the fighters that he's beaten are better than him, but that doesn't matter in MMA. You just have that heart, you have that grit, you have that will to go forward and just put hurting on your opponent, and that's exactly what Darren Elkins is going to be doing. I will also say this: the last time Darren Elkins got submitted, do you know off the top of your head?
Actually, no. I didn't even bother looking because it doesn't really happen. Charles Oliveira back in 2010. The champ.
Exactly. The champ. 11 years ago, last time he got submitted. So he doesn't get into those types of positions too often. There is also a counter argument to that argument in the fact that I don't think Darren Elkins has fought a very high level BJJ guy in that amount of time. Darrick Minner, high level BJJ guy, don't get me wrong, but for how long in a fight? 5 minutes, 6 minutes, exactly. Especially when he's feeling resistance, then it's going to start to get to him. So yeah, I like the damage in this fight too. And I really didn't think I'd be on the damages side pre-tape, but once you run the tape, it's kind of hard to really argue against it. I do like Elkins in this spot. I do think he's going to get the better of the positions. And even though he might be aging and has a ton of fight miles on him, I don't know if Darrick Minner is actually going to be able to put him on his butt with punches or strikes or anything like that. I think it is going to be a grappling match for the most part, but we'll see Elkins get, he might get handled a little bit in the first round. I don't think he's going to get submitted, but then after that, I think he's going to start to take over. Possible live betting opportunity if anybody wants to take advantage of that. Wait till the end of round 1, maybe get a better price on Darren Elkins. And I saw somebody shout it out in the chat. This is another prime round 3 spot, in my opinion, as Darren Elkins does not slow down, man. The guy just keeps going and going and going. Just ask Mirsad Bektik. He's still probably having some PTSD whenever he sees Darren Elkins or anything like that. So, I like Elkins in the spot. And again, skill-wise, he's not the greatest out there, but he just puts his MMA game together so well and mixes it with his will and determination and his heart, and he just breaks dudes. And I feel like he's going to be able to break Darrick Minner here, and we'll see that questionable gas tank show itself once again now that he's actually going to be facing resistance against Darren Elkins. So, yeah, I like Darren Elkins, and I might even add, like you said, I might add a little bit more to Darren Elkins if this price continues to widen as fight week goes on.
I didn't think there was going to be so much love for Minner, man. I really didn't expect to see this much love for Minner. I like it. I like the spot on Darren Elkins. I like the round 3 spot on Darren Elkins as well. I just think that what we see from these guys is one breaks and the other never does. So if Minner comes out and he snaps, he gets a rear naked choke and he snaps off Darren Elkins in the first round, that's fine. We knew that round 1 Elkins was the path to victory. But if he doesn't finish this fight in the first round, y'all laying minus 215, minus 175, you're going to be sweating bad if he doesn't get that first round finish, because that's when Elkins pours things on. And I know a lot of people have talked about he's shot, and Darren Elkins is damaged goods at this point, if you will. And that may be true, but this is the kind of opponent he can still beat. This is the kind of opponent that he can implement that wrestling game with. And we have seen what happens when Minner wrestles for more than 4 minutes. He tires. He slows down. I don't think that he's had such a change in his game that he can now go 15 minutes with somebody with the grappling chops of someone like Darren Elkins. If he gets the finish, fine.
Yeah, I will also say this is recency bias 101. Like we've said, we saw it last week with Sergey Morozov, everybody putting way too much stock into his loss to Nurmagomedov, and they make Khalid Taha the favorite. There's just this knee-jerk reaction where we overcorrect sometimes, and I feel like there's a huge overcorrection here with Darrick Minner. If he goes out there and gives us a solid 15 minutes against Darren Elkins, then yeah, my mind might change a little bit. But one performance is not going to do that for me. Where is Tai Leal? Remember Khalil Roundtree after Thailand? That lasted one fight.
Yep.
So I think we're going to get that realization once again this week, and I think this is the fight.
There's another variant spot coming up that we still have yet to talk about that we'll want to put a pin in that, because I have thoughts.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait.
Oh, it's good, man. It's good. We're ready to go this week. All right. So what we have coming up next, first off, glad we agree on that dog again, because we both cashed in on Sergey. I wish YouTube would let me play copyrighted music, because I absolutely would blast the Russian Kazakhstan song.
Let's go.
So Kyler Phillips taking on Julian Paiva, and we're gonna go back to something we touched on way long ago in the podcast, and we got another weight change, man. Julian Paiva is coming up a weight class here to take on Kyler the Matrix Phillips. And whoa, Kyler Phillips, man, this guy is on another world with what he's doing right now. Like, his striking game is so slick. He sees everything just so well from distance. He's got fancy footwork, great in and out movement, attacks the body, throws the spinning shit, like, looks like Jesus. Like, you can't go wrong with this guy. He's a BJJ black belt training at the MMA lab. He's got a long jab. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage here, which is crazy because Paiva is usually the tall and long guy. And, man, this is such a weird matchup. Team Paiva, Raulian Paiva is training at a Team Alpha Male. I think that's the one that you may have hinted at previously. He's also a BJJ black belt. He's 25 years old as opposed to the 26 of Kyler. He's not fought in a full calendar year, man. And that's something that I've said time and time and time again, that when young fighters like this hit a bit of a rough patch and they take a full year or more off, I love it. When you've got an aging veteran, someone that's struggling to maintain relevancy, and they take time off because their body's broken and shit, that's when it's a red flag. But when it's a young guy like this, you look for those improvements. If you're at this age and you take that amount of time off, unless it's Macy Barber, you're coming back with new tools in the shed. So I look forward to seeing what Paiva has added to his game. And on top of that, I think he might benefit from the extra 10 pounds if he puts some muscle on, which I haven't. He's always got his damn shirt on his Instagram, man. It's hard to get a read on this kid. But if he actually puts some work in, physically speaking, the weight class up could be a real benefit to him here. He's got great range control, fast hands, good straight punches, which I think is good because when you get people firing those loopy shots, the straight punches are going to get there faster. He can beat you to the punch. He really mixes it up well, head and body, and honestly, he's got really good counters. Honestly, I think Julian Paiva's had a higher level of competition so far in the UFC. I know Kyler is the new flavor of the week right now, and he's riding hot, but he hasn't really fought anybody. So if he's the goods is really going to be shown in his next 2, 3, or 4 fights. I feel like this line is wide, man. The world is on Kyler Phillips right now. He opened up minus 188. He's now minus 300. Like a flood of money is coming in on Kyler Phillips. And he damn well may win this fight, but I feel like we're just straight disrespecting Julian Paiva at this line. Talk to me, Locke. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, it looks like Bet Online opened Kyler Phillips around -150 and just a flood of money coming in on him. And like you said, flavor of the week is like the perfect way to put it. Like if you guys remember when he went in to fight Gabriel Silva, he was only at -115. I think he might have even been the slight underdog in that fight. But now he gets a couple wins, and all of a sudden he's just the talk of the town. Now, don't get me wrong, the guy's making a ton of improvements. He looks great. His striking looks good. He really matadored Song Yadong in his last fight, just waiting for the perfect opportunities to open up. And we know Song Yadong is a little bit of a bruiser, kind of just likes to move forward and just throw his big winging hooks and try to nail that big shot on his opponent. So more often than not, it works for him, given his record and his ability to find success with that. But then Kyler Phillips was just showing, let me just wait for my moments to explode, and then I'll get the better of him, land a couple of takedowns as well to kind of control the fight and have some success there. But you are on the money, my friend. I think this line is a little bit too wide, man. I might be picking Kyler to win this fight, but it is getting hard to pass up that plus money on Holly and Paiva. I've long been saying that I believe that Paiva is the dark horse in the flyweight division. Now, obviously, he's being forced up to go to 135 pounds, and this might be the better weight class for him. And I've seen a lot of people out there, and they might just put a little bit too much stock into that Zhalgas Zhumagulov fight. Even though he won that fight, there is a good case that you could possibly give it to Zhumagulov, who probably deserved to win that decision. But if we remember, he missed weight in that fight. I believe that possibly had something to do with his ability to work and showcase his full skill set. But I think that, he has great striking. He has some good pressure at times when he wants to. I feel like at times he might be able to corral Kyler Phillips up against the cage and get some shots off. If this fight hits the ground, he's a black belt in BJJ, shows some great credentials down there as well. And now going up to 135 pounds, he's going to be full. He's going to be healthy. I hope he filled out correctly as well. But I think he has all the skills in the world to pull off the upset here. So I'm in one of those spots where I very rarely do this. I feel like Phillips, with his improvements and his skill set, he could have the edge in this fight. I'm probably going to pick Phillips to win this fight, but it's going to be so hard to not at least put a half unit or even a unit on Paiva in this spot, especially if this line continues to blow up, right? Like the line, the best line that I can see on best fight odds right now is plus 247 for Paiva. That is absolutely insane in my opinion. I think it should be much closer line. The flavor of the week is in full effect, right? Like you said, with Kyler Phillips. And especially we can see it with the line movement, right? -150 to -300, maybe even getting bigger than that. Everybody's on him. There's these spots where we got to be careful and not just get into that herd mentality of just saying, oh, everybody's on Phillips. Okay, I'm just going to pick Phillips. Watch the tape. Paiva has good skill set. He has great Muay Thai, in my opinion, and he has the chops to go out there and pull off the upset in this spot. So I'm still tossing around the idea of who's going to be my official pick to win the fight. But in terms of a bet, don't be surprised come Saturday night if I have a ticket on Holly and Paiva. So I'm going to wait out a couple more days, see if this line continues to blow up. I feel like people are going to be, parlaying Phillips and playing him and all that type of stuff. The line is going to get better. So I'm going to wait out on Paiva. Don't write off Paiva just as quickly. I know a lot of people are going to be focusing on that Zhumagulov fight, which was close, even though he got the win. A lot of people thought his stock kind of dropped. I do think his weight cut had an issue there, and I do think that 135 pounds is going to be healthy, and he should be able to show us his full skill set. And even though he might have a padded record on the Brazilian scene, I still do believe that he has a good skill set and has top 7 potential, in my opinion. I think he is a very, very good fighter, and this should be a good fight for him to see whether he, if my thoughts are correct. So the pick, again, I'll leave it TBD for now. But I will more than likely have a bet on Paiva, at least a half unit bet on him to take advantage of that value.
I'm sitting right there with you, man. I mean, the people in the chat, I mean, like my guy Leon right here, guys, Kyler wins. Like that's the whole attitude right now of the entire internet. Like, fact of the matter, Kyler wins. And man, we do the value betting. We do the more savvy sports betting style. And when you start getting up to plus 250, plus 275, like, those are not the numbers that accurately reflect the chances of who goes home with their hand raised in this fight. And I don't have a bet right now because when I broke this thing down, I went, yeah, Kyler Phillips probably wins this fight. But I don't think he wins it 80% of the time. I don't think he wins it 90% of the time. It's just not that simple. And when you give me a fighter that's as good as Julian Paiva is, who has a year off to improve, who's coming up a weight class where, like you mentioned, he's going to be more full. He's going to be more able. He's going to have a better gas tank. He'll hit harder. Like, that's hard to turn down at plus 250, plus 260. So let's see where this line goes, man. I'm going to say Kyler Phillips wins the fight, but I absolutely might be with you with a value shot on Julian Paiva come fight time on Saturday.
Yeah, I love this spot. I feel like this is one of those spots that you got to take advantage of that crazy plus money on a fighter who has the skill set and talent that Paiva has. I don't care how good Kyler Phillips is. You can't be disrespecting Paiva like that. And yeah, I like Paiva in this spot.
Absolutely. He's going to be overlooked for sure. And if Kyler overlooks him, could be a dead man.
He's in trouble. Yeah.
All right, man. Here we go. We have got the co-main event of the evening, the return of none other than Aspen Ladd taking on Macy Chiasson. Aspen Ladd is 9-1. Macy Chiasson is 8-1. Big bantamweight fight here against two of the hottest prospects in the division. Man, I'm just going to lead off with this. I beat the line. I already loaded up on Aspen Ladd. I got 3.3 units to win 2 at minus 165. I know Aspen Ladd's coming off a long layoff. I know she's coming off of a surgery. I know she's repairing her leg. Like, that's all red flag territory. But the work ethic of this woman, she is mean. She is vicious. She is physically strong. And honestly, man, she's got great cardio. She's always out there hiking. Like, if you look at her Instagram, it's pictures of her and her dog hiking up some crazy mountain like twice a week. She's always hiking at altitude, which kind of helps the gas tank, in my opinion. She's raw power incarnate. And I think that she has fought a massively better level of competition in the UFC so far than her opponent, Macy Chiasson. I mean, Macy Chiasson just is coming off a win of Marion Renault, who we know had one foot out the door already. Marion Renault is impressive. I like her. I've always been a fan of hers, but like, that's a win that Macy Chiasson's got to get. And really, they gave it to Miesha Tate because she's kind of the bottom of the barrel at this point in the division. So it was a get-right fight for Macy Chiasson. Now, Chiasson's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage. That's kind of the one thing that has me a little bit terrified, because if she uses that 6-inch reach advantage, it could be a problem from a point fighting perspective, because she does have good leg kicks. She does have a good jab, but we're in the apex. I think that the strength, the physicality advantage of Aspen Ladd is going to be what really makes the difference here. And if she wants to run through Macy Chiasson and pin her up against the fence, she can. If she wants to suck out those hips and pin her against the floor, she can. Like, I think that Aspen Ladd is going to win this fight via muscles. And the way that she strikes, the power that she puts into her ground and pound, and honestly, Aspen Ladd's submission game, Macy gives her back up, man. I don't know if you've seen it, but whenever she gets up against the cage or up against the fence, she has a tendency of turning the wrong way against her opponents. I think Aspen Ladd's going to finish her. I think Aspen Ladd is going to come out, scream like a banshee like we've seen her do before. And when she gets Macy Chiasson on the ground, who has a 64% takedown defense rating, mind you, she is very easy to take down. I think that she's just going to be a fish out of water. I think Ladd's going to be able to do whatever she wants to when this thing hits the mat. So I loaded up already, threw some hammers on Aspen Ladd. That's the side I'm strongly on at this point. Pretty happy to beat that line move. And I would love to hear your thoughts.
I do agree that I like Ladd to win this fight, but I think it's going to be a little bit closer than you're making it out to be. Personally, I think that they're almost mirror images of each other, but I think that Macy Chiasson is a little bit greener, especially with like certain times when she's in like desperation mode in terms of getting takedowns and just trying to like, outmuscle and outwork her opponents. I think she will be at like a standstill when it comes to strength here. I think that they're going to kind of cancel each other out. They'll both have their moments in this fight. Ladd obviously coming back from surgery and that long time off, it's a little bit of a concern for me. I do think she wins. I think she's the better fighter all around. I think she has a slightly better striking. Chiasson might have more power though in terms of striking. Used to fight at 145 pounds, but I think that was more so for the case of just the Ultimate Fighter, just to get into the UFC. I think she went up to 145. As we quickly saw, she dropped down to 135 pounds after that. But this fight's a little bit harder for me to call. I feel like they're almost mirror images of each other. But I feel like the experience and the better well-roundedness will be on the side of Aspen Ladd here. I think she will be able to complete takedowns. I think she will be able to get better of the grappling exchanges. She had some interesting fights with Sijara Eubanks a couple years ago as well. But Eubanks high-level black belt as well too. So she was able to, she was getting the better of most of those exchanges, but she did struggle a little bit. Kyasan is not a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I do think that she still has some greenness about her game, like I said, and I do think that she has a little bit of cardio issues as well, which could potentially come into play here, especially when she's not the one that's the hammer, right? The fact that even Marion Renault got a round off of her that first round, she won that round on all 3 judges' scorecards. Nobody was expecting that. I had a bet on Marion Renault in that fight because I thought that the greenness of Kyasan was going to, show some issues, and we were like one exchange away from actually winning that bet in the second round. If you guys remember, Kyasan lands a beautiful left hook, I think it was on Renault, rocks her, but outside of that one moment, I thought Renault was winning the majority of that round. With that said, again, experience, well-roundedness, I think it goes into Aspen Ladd's corner here, but the layoff the layoff, the injury gives me a little bit of pause. So I do like Aspen to win here. I think she wins by decision, possibly. Maybe a third round stoppage, given Kyasan's, slowing down and desperation at times. But man, it's a tough fight for me to call. I like that you have as much confidence as you have in it. And when you have a read that you feel that confident in it, your hammers have been fucking killing it. So I'm sure that you could be on the money with this one. Personally, I'm going to be laying back on this fight. I'm not going to be taking a strong stance on either side. I do pick Aspen Ladd, but not by a wide margin.
Okay, I feel you there, man. And yeah, you know what? Ever since I started embracing the hammers, it's paid off pretty well for me. It was something that when I first started doing the podcast, when I first started kind of taking my betting seriously, I always lost my big bets. I was such a casual that whenever I was extremely confident on something, I was wrong. And it took me 2 full years of sitting back and going, okay, every single bet has to be 1 unit or laying the price to win 1 unit, so I could learn actually how to do this. And I've made enough improvements that now I've kind of felt comfortable opening up again and adding more to those big shots. And it's really been working since I opened up and started doing it again. So hopefully the streak continues and the big bet here on Ladd cashes. I'm not blind to the danger betting on a fighter coming off of a layoff like this, coming off of an injury like this. But I did listen to her interview with my guy, James Lynch. Shout out to James Lynch. If you guys haven't checked his stuff out, best interviewer in the game. But what Ladd talked about, first off, she's been active with her gym. You know, her little brother is an MMA fighter too. I expect we'll see him in the UFC one of these days in the near future. She's kind of taken him under her wing, and she's been very, very focused on her gym teammates and his development. And so she's been around the MMA game even while she's been out with this repair, with this injury. And she talked about how coming back from this, she really had to reteach herself everything. And when you reteach yourself, you got to do it right. You had to learn how to walk again. You had to learn how to walk right again. And when she got back into the training scenario, she said that she really focused on doing things correctly. So some of the things that she may have been doing before the injury, that she was just overcompensating with her raw physical power or something like that, she's ironed out those kinks. She's made improvements in her overall game, the technique. She's doing everything properly and correctly. And I think that's an incredible mindset to have. Like, I think that if she feels and her coaches feel that she's made those kind of adjustments and improvements, I think we'll actually see another one of these young fighter layoff improved versions of Aspen Ladd. And that's kind of what I'm banking on here. It's dangerous to bet on something that you haven't seen yet, but we have seen we have seen Macy Chiasson not make those same improvements. And the fact that you were betting someone like Marion Renault against Macy Chiasson is all I need to know right now. Like, if that's where we're at, we're like, Marion Renault actually has a really good chance of beating Macy Chiasson in the year of our Lord 2021. Like, those improvements aren't actually there. You know what I mean? Like, if she's getting bet against the lowest fighter on the totem pole, I'm good taking a shot against her with someone who I feel is a legitimate prospect and has fought some of the better fighters in this division and fought very well with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not often that you actually see Chiasson as the dog. So this is a spot where even the odds makers and the public like what they're seeing from Aspen Ladd and how she's going to be able to kind of translate that inside the cage. And I absolutely see your approach here. Don't get me wrong. I do think it's going to play out a little bit closer. It's those grappling and clinch exchanges. I feel like that's going to win the fight for whoever it is, right? Whoever's stronger in those positions are able to implement their game a little bit better there. That's where they thrive, right? That's where Chiasson was able to kind of pull away from Renault and pull away from her other opponents, is just physically, just outpower them, outstrength them, outmuscle them, and that's how she wins. But she's up against another girl who does that very well. Let's see who gets the upper hand here. I do think it's Ladd, but I can't wait to see it play out.
I'm excited, man. I'm really excited. I hope she comes back, and I hope she comes back strong. This may be maybe we start the official simp bet record on Saturday here with with these couple of shots I'm taking. All right, everybody. It is time. It's time to break down the main event of the evening. But first, a word from our sponsors. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. This is the Die Hard MMA podcast. You're watching Pub Sports Radio on YouTube, and I'm joined by my man, Manpreet, MMA Lock of the Night. We're breaking down the main event of UFC Vegas 32. It is time for Sandhagen versus Dillashaw, the return of the snake. I hope all of you appreciated the thumbnail this week because I usually just do solid colors. Yes, that is snakeskin pattern on the thumbnail rather than just being a solid color. I had to go for it with TJ coming back here. Man, what a fight. So TJ Dillashaw, we all know the story. I'm actually about to go watch the Fight Pass documentary they did on him getting busted. I'm going to watch that tonight after we get off the show. He got popped for EPO. He's coming back after a 2-year suspension. And they are throwing him straight into the deep end against 14-2 Corey Sandhagen, a guy who's just been knocking on that door of contendership and has just barely missed his opportunity and dropped the ball with that Aljamain Sterling fight, man. So Corey Sandhagen, 29 years old, prime of his life, really turning things up right now. TJ Dillashaw, he's 35 years old now, so he's a little bit older in a small man's weight class where we know that can basically mean death for you. This is such an interesting fight to me, man. I kind of teased at this a little bit earlier. And Corey Sandhagen's last 3 fights have been the epitome of variance to me. There's a fighter that not too long ago we talked about being a variance machine. And I can't remember if it was you. It actually might have been you, Locke. But Marlon Moraes, he went on this ridiculous run of 3 or 4 quick finishes where, he just head kicked everybody. He quick guillotined everybody. He just snapped all these people within, the first 30 seconds or so of the first round. And it may not have been you because I'm sure you would have piped up if it was you by now. But whoever I was talking to basically, whoever I was talking to basically was like, man, but it's been such high variance. What happens when you extend him? What happens when you get to round 2? What happens when you get to round 3? And sure enough, that's when we saw the fall of Marlon Moraes. Is we found a couple people who were able to survive that onslaught of a first round, and then he had nothing. He had no plan B beyond that finish. And I almost feel like Corey Sandhagen has gotten himself into that range here in his last couple of fights. It's been so long since we have seen him go 15 minutes. Now, I know he's done it, so nobody, don't attack me. I know he's been 15 minutes before. I know he can go 15 minutes. But he almost catches me as a guy who's maybe buying into his own hype a little bit here. He almost catches me as a guy who is embracing that variance, and when his opponent doesn't fall over after the first couple of hard strikes, he might not quite know what to do anymore. So I'm going to be very, very curious to see how this fight plays out on Saturday because this is a 5-round main event. And TJ Dillashaw is a former 2-time champion at this weight class. He's had 5-round main event experience more than probably anybody who's left in the division besides Dominic Cruz. I mean, that's his game. We know Corey's going to be younger, taller, longer, all the advantages that you would ever potentially want in this kind of a fight. But all the experience is with TJ Dillashaw. He's fought the higher level of competition besides, Aljamain Sterling. And honestly, man, I think TJ Dillashaw still, now we haven't seen it yet because he's been gone for 2 years, but the main calling card of TJ Dillashaw was always that speed. The guy is a speed demon in the cage. His hands are so fast, and when he's got you rocked, he can hit you with 6 punches in less than half a second and get that TKO stoppage. If he can solve the puzzle of closing the range on Corey Sandhagen, I think he can go to work within the boxing range and have a significant advantage with his hands. And I think that TJ Dillashaw is probably the better grappler of the two. And we saw that the one time Corey Sandhagen has lost recently was when he went to the ground with Aljamain Sterling. Now, I think Aljo is a beast when it comes to his ground game. I don't know that TJ is quite as dangerous as Aljo is on the mat, but I do think that he will have an advantage in that area. The one area Corey Sandhagen is going to have the advantage is when he keeps this thing at kickboxing range, when he's able to use his kicks, when he's able to keep TJ on the end of his punches. That's going to be Corey's world. And to me, I just feel like too much is being played into the steroid angle. I think too much is being played into the he's shot angle. Like, what evidence do we have that TJ Dillashaw is shot? He made a terrible choice and cut way too much weight to get down to 125 and took on the biggest power puncher 125 has ever seen in Henry Cejudo, an Olympian, a champion, a 2-division champion, and he got clipped and hurt early and the referee waved it off. And if you recall, Locke, there's a lot of people that thought that was an early stoppage.
Yeah.
We've seen nothing that TJ Dillashaw is broken. We've seen nothing to say that TJ Dillashaw's chin is shot. Like, he went from being one of the most dominant champions in the UFC to a 2-year suspension. If anything, I actually think this layoff may have extended his career. You know, he was fighting at such a drastic clip. He was really capitalizing on his momentum and his hype. You take him out of that, you let his body heal. He had a surgery that he had been needing for years. If you remember, he did a bunch of interviews with his arm in a sling because, like, he finally had the downtime to rest and relax. We might be seeing the literal best version of TJ Dillashaw come Saturday, contrary to what other people think. I think the disrespect is real. I think that the variance in Corey Sandhagen's game is real. This is not going to be a popular opinion, but I think this line is too wide, man, and I'm absolutely lining up with the snake. I'm going to take the shot on TJ Dillashaw. I'm going to wait because I know the world is against me, and this line should continue widening. He's at plus 155 right now, and I expect people to parlay Corey Sandhagen till the cows come home. He opened up at plus 135, and if this thing gets up to plus 170 or plus 175, it honestly would not surprise me. Shit, I'll take it right now. But I'm going to wait and see how high it goes. Because I think rolling with a proven champion who's got a chance to come back and clean his name, I just think that there's something beyond what we would normally see for the X factors there. I think the hunger, the drive from TJ Dillashaw is going to be more than it ever has. And I know this has been extremely long-winded, so I do apologize. But, man, there's so much to talk about and break down here on this fight. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of unknowns. I always say that sports betting is a lot like poker. It's a game of incomplete information. You take what you've got, you put the puzzle together, and take the best shot you can. I'm siding with the dog, man. How do you feel about this main event? Which side are you taking?
I might get a little bit long-winded on my side too, because this fight deserves it, man. Like, this fight is absolutely amazing. We're talking about like 2 of the top 5 bantamweights in the world, and even though Dillashaw's been off for a while, I still believe he presents a lot of threats to a lot of the guys in this division. Remember when we talked about hype tax a little bit earlier in the podcast? I think that's happening here too with Corey Sandhagen. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the guy's very skilled, very, very skilled. There's actually somebody that's kind of close with Pierre Yon that I talk with every now and then. And after he beat, I'm trying to remember which fight it was, but I'm just like, I don't know who's left in bantamweight for Pierre Yon to fight, or who is even threatening enough to potentially take his title. And the first name the guy said was Corey Sandhagen. So there is legitimate skill with Corey Sandhagen. There is a little bit of variance though as well, like you said, with the way he's been winning some of his fights. Now, this narrative that TJ Dillashaw is chinny and he's shot and he has a worse chin than fucking Chuck Liddell. That's where it makes it. That's what the Twitter timeline is making it seem like. And I don't understand it. Right? He got knocked out by a Henry Cejudo. Okay, he got dropped by Cody Garbrandt in the first fight. Didn't get finished. Last time he got finished before that, John Dodson, who's probably one of the hardest hitters at the lighter weight classes, and that was like 10, 11 years ago. So I don't think he has a chin issue. Can he get finished by punches or strikes? Possibly. Because what Corey Sandhagen does so well is he creates traps. That's how he was able to get that flying knee knockout over Frankie Edgar the way that he did. He set it up perfectly, waited for the proper moment, and then just put all of his life into that knee. And we saw exactly what happened to Frankie Edgar. Will TJ Dillashaw fall into those same traps? I don't think so. And I think you are onto something in regards to people making too much of a deal about the steroids thing, the EPO thing. In my opinion, I believe he took the EPO to get down to 125 pounds, help him out with his cardio to get that weight off. Apparently, according to the episode that he did with Shab on Food Truck Diaries, the USADA went back and tested all of his stuff dating back to the Rafael Assunção fight and found nothing.
So, I forgot about that. I watched that episode and I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, like, so all of a sudden people just think that he was on EPO the entire time. Possibly he could have been, but EPO is probably one of the easier ones to get test positive for, right? With USADA like updating the technology and all that type of stuff that they're doing, EPO is probably one of the easier ones to catch, and they didn't catch it on anything that he did back then, which leads me to believe that he potentially wasn't on EPO for that fight, and that he could go out there and keep a 5-round pace with his weird striking style. But what he's going to need more in this fight, exactly what he said in the Food Truck Diaries episode as well, he knows that he needs his wrestling in this fight. He knows that he has the advantage there. So why not try to implement that? Obviously, it's going to be a lot harder to implement than I'm actually saying it is, but I think he has the striking skills to make it a little bit difficult for Corey Sandhagen to get his own game going and then eventually landing his own takedowns and grinding this fight out. Sure, there's question marks, right? USADA out for as long as he has, had that surgery to repair his labrum, I believe it was. But he's had the time off to, he had some wars against Cody Garbrandt. Obviously got knocked out by Henry Cejudo, so it's good that he's had this time off as well. I like Corey. I think he's a very talented fighter, but we can't be writing off one of the bantamweight GOATs in TJ Dillashaw this easily. I get he's 35 years old, but I still believe he has the chops to go out there and make it a difficult night for Corey Sandhagen. So yeah, this line is off in my opinion. I think it should be much closer. I think it should be maybe minus 130 Corey Sandhagen, maybe minus 140. Just throwing some numbers out there. I think it should be closer than what it's currently at, but everybody's just like, Dillashaw pop for EPO. He's going to come out looking like how fucking Eric Silva looked post USADA. You remember that?
Exactly.
Like, that's what people are thinking it's going to be like. I don't believe it's going to be like that. The guy's been training, outside of that surgery that he had, he's been training. He's been helping Juan Archuleta. He's been helping out Cub Swanson. He's been staying busy and just staying active and just waiting for that moment that he can jump back into the cage. And now here is his opportunity. He seems to be that guy that has that mentality of like, I really fucked up. I confess to it. I put my heart on my sleeve. Now I want to go out there and show people that I'm a legitimate, my bantamweight run was legitimate. It wasn't just because of that one EPO stint. I promise you that we're going to see a better TJ Dillashaw than people are making it out to be. So at that plus 150, plus 160, it is a little bit intriguing. Early in the week and even mid last week when people were asking me, what's your thoughts on Dillashaw and Sandhagen? Initially, I was like, I'm going to stay the fuck away from this fight. There's just too many X factors that I can't really compute and calculate at this time. I'm just going to stay back and just enjoy it because it's a great bantamweight fight. But if this line continues to widen, it's a little bit difficult to look away from the chances that Dillashaw has to truly win this fight. And I think he is still one of the best bantamweights out there. He just has to go out there and show it. Last thing I'll say about this, again, long-winded, but it deserves to be considering the fight that we have. Let's look at the finishes that Corey Sandhagen truly has since coming into the UFC.
I was just going to do that, buddy.
Body shot KO over Austin Arnett. All right, that's a body shot. Yuri Alcantara, if you guys remember that, he was in trouble that entire first round, almost getting submitted, almost getting his arm ripped off, and then he comes back and TKOs, gassed out Yuri Alcantara. Beautiful armbar win over Mario Bautista. I won't hate on that. John Lineker split decision, but again, we know what John Lineker brings to the table. Great win over Rafael Assunção. Obviously lost to Aljamain Sterling via rear naked choke. Marlon Moraes, after he had already broken him, lands a beautiful wheel kick, finishes him. And then lastly, the Frankie Edgar one, 28 seconds, sets up that trap perfectly and executes it to perfection. Is he going to be able to do the same thing to TJ Dillashaw? Is he going to finish it with a body shot? Is he going to finish him with a spinning wheel kick? Is he going to set up a trap to catch TJ Dillashaw and possibly put him out? Pre-fight, I don't think so. I think he's going to struggle to do so. And I think that we'll see some prime TJ Dillashaw shit. And he could come away with this victory. I'm not lock of the night deep on TJ Dillashaw. Don't get me wrong. This is going to be a very competitive fight, and Corey Sandhagen could absolutely win it. But if we're talking about implied odds and what the odds are currently at, I think it's too wide. But I still do end up coming out on the side that TJ Dillashaw will win this fight with striking, movement, and then eventually the takedown, which I think is going to be his saving grace in this fight. I'm on TJ Dillashaw, maybe a bet if he gets to plus 200. Let's go the snake.
Hey, I love that we agree here, man. I'm right there with you. Marlon Moraes, Frankie Edgar are damaged goods at this point. Their chins are not what they used to be. He capitalized on that. Those are legends. I can't take anything away from him, but the fact is they're a little bit wobbly. So everyone expecting him to just do the exact same thing to TJ Dillashaw when TJ's at his home weight class, when he's not sucking out all that extra weight. This guy doesn't get cracked that easy. I don't think it's going to be that simple. I mean, don't get me wrong here. Everyone's going to be freaking out. Corey Sandhagen can win this fight.
Yeah, for sure.
He can hit a switch kick and knock TJ's head off. I'm not saying it's not possible. I just don't think it's going to happen. And I also think that TJ has a better chance to win this fight than the odds would suggest, which is why I'm going to side with the dog. The other thing to keep in mind, man, TJ Dillashaw, if you recall, before he went out, the reason he was such a dominant champion is they were on the cutting edge of MMA. They were always innovating. Him and Dwayne Ludwig had a game plan for everybody, and it was never what you expected it to be. Why would we expect that to stop? He got clipped by Henry Cejudo, and I'm a Cejudo guy. I bet Henry hard in that fight against TJ. But maybe a bit of an early stoppage. And that completely erases what he did for the 2 years prior? Like, no. I fully expect Dwayne Ludwig and TJ Dillashaw to be back on point, to have a game plan, and to be ready for Corey Sandhagen, who they've been able to do nothing but watch tape on for the last 2 years.
One other thing that I'm going to add to this, I see a lot of it, like, now that he's not on EPO, he's not going to be able to keep the pace. But, like, again, they've gotten back and tested all of his shit. They keep samples, A samples, B samples. They keep all that shit. Yep. They found nothing. So I'm not completely, maybe he was on something. Definitely was an EPO because they would have caused it, in my opinion. It would have been,
I think we have our answer. Thanks for the donation, my boy James Burnett saying TJ by KO because he still sells him the juice. So we got a little insider information here from my guy James. He's selling the juice to TJ. He's confirmed still on it. And James follows up with another $5 donation saying TJ takes hit with or without the juice. So thank you very much for the donations, James. We really appreciate that. That goes to support Pub Sports Radio and all the personalities here that bring you awesome free live betting content every single week. So thank you all very much for the donations. It really goes a long way, and it means a lot to all of us. That's it. There y'all have it. We broke down the entire card, UFC Vegas 32. We agreed more than we disagreed this week, Locke, which always feels nice, especially when both of us come off of a week of seeing The Matrix. And I hope we can keep this thing rolling. I hope we can put some more cash in our pockets on Saturday.
Oh, hell yeah. I feel pretty good about the shots that I've taken already. Again, as lines start to widen throughout the week as well, we might get some good value as well. So hopefully we can keep our eyes on that. But yeah, I'm feeling damn good about the spots that I like already. And hopefully we can get some money in these pockets, like you said.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And we got a shout out from Ryan. Please do more shows together. Hey, I get Locke on this show as often as I can. I know he's my guy. We just mesh well together. Don't worry. Locke will be back as soon as I can get him back on the podcast.
Let's go.
All right, man. Hey, thank you so much for spending your evening with me. The floor is yours, my friend. Let the people know where they can find you. Shout out anything you got going on. Have at it, man.
Yeah, at MMA LOT on pretty much every social media platform, MMA Lock of the Night on YouTube. I'll be dropping my pre-recorded podcast later this evening. And tomorrow evening, I'll be doing my own podcast solo to go over the card once again, 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow evening on my channel. And I got a bunch of stuff coming out throughout the week, most notably Friday nights. Everybody loves that Ultimate Weigh-In show. I don't have my cast put together yet, but I will announce it as soon as I do. But yeah, Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, the Ultimate Weigh-In show, getting a cast and crew from all over their MMA betting space and MMA Twitter personalities that have solid takes to give you guys some good advice, mere 24 hours from the fights, especially with the weigh-ins in mind as well too. So it may not be the undefeated weigh-in show like my guy Clint over here, but we still do get some solid takes with 4 different perspectives on the Ultimate Weigh-In show. So yeah, Clint, as always, appreciate you having me on, brother. I know there's so many times that you're reaching out to me, be like, yo, can you step in real quick? I'm like, I gotta step up my tape study. I can't just come in blind. And luckily I was ready to go this week for you. So I'm glad that I aligned this week, and hopefully we can do it again within the next month or so, because I love chopping it up with you, my brother.
Hell yeah, man. I don't worry about it. You're just always my go-to. That's the thing. Whenever someone cancels or I have a problem, you're the first person I message. So that's why don't feel bad if you got to say no, but you're always hearing from me because you're the number one, man. You're first string.
I appreciate it. That's encouraging enough for me to make sure that I have my tape study done by Monday evening so we can do this shit.
There you go. And I do want to shout out 0 to 100 for the donation. Thank you, my friend Sandhagen, via attempted murder, fading T-Juice. So love it. Good luck with that, man. Connor, I will give you the recap that you requested real quick because you did ask nicely. So what I was thinking for myself is Arce. Yanez? Question mark. I feel like the line's getting wide. Eubanks, but untrustworthy. We came around to Ian Heinisch, Belbita. I beat that line move. I got Belbita pretty solid for 2 units. Brendan Allen, again, very, very close. Not betting it. Gall, dog or pass, maybe. Under is more likely the bet there in that case. Elkins, Kyler's the pick. Paiva's the bet. Aspen Lad, Barber, probably passing. And then TJ Dillashaw. That's the recap for me. Thank you all so much for joining us. Seriously, we capped off at like 360 live viewers. So the Monday show always getting some traction, doing some good shit. Locks Friday show is epic. One of these days you got to get me back on the Friday Ultimate show. I know you've got a big circle. You have some sick guests on that show, man. So you're doing good stuff there. Everybody smash that like button for us. Share this thing out there. Make sure you hit that like and retweet because I did tweet at Weird Al Yankovic since I found out that me and Locke both love the guy. Maybe he likes MMA and we can get him on the show. Who knows?
Y'all might be better than Sam Alvey.
Oh, right. Right? I would die if Weird Al Yankovic came on my podcast, bro. I don't care, MMA or not. I would just lose my shit if I met Weird Al. You all have a wonderful week. And remember that if you can do anything to help anybody in this world, it's replacing the damn paper towels when you use the last one on the roll. Because if you use the last paper towel, the next time I'm going for a paper towel, it's because there's a mess and now I've got nothing to clean it up with. So be a good human freaking being and replace the paper towels. You have a good week. Let's roll.